does not eliminate people with need because there is a sick bank.
Okay. Have a motion?
I move that we cap the number of sick days that can be accumulated in the non-union contracts to 180 days.
Second, please. Was that Susan?
Yes.
All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Interim business manager appointment, Dr. Bates.
On behalf of Superintendent-elect Clenchey, since July 1st is on Friday, and it begins your fiscal year 17, I'm happy to nominate Patricia Maroney, who is your senior accountant, to acting business manager during this time. Pat has been with the district since 2003. She was a financial analyst for the Bedford Public Schools from 95 to 2003. She has a BS in accounting and business from UMass Lowell, and she's a certified member of MASBO, and she's done a great job for us now, and we need somebody in that position beginning Friday. So until that gets posted, until Superintendent Clenchey can get in here and go through the process of selection. So as acting business and operations manager. And
Okay.
because that's under the school committee purview, I'm presenting it to you now.
Anybody have any comments, questions? Pat, thank you for everything that you've done over the past couple of months to help us out. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Can I get a motion?
I move that we appoint Pat Maroney
Maroney.
as interim business manager.
Acting.
Acting.
Second.
Neil, thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you,
Congratulations.
congratulations, Pat.
Congratulations.
MOU educator evaluation, Dr. Bates, this is you.
This is Ross and Laura are going to come up, and they have worked diligently on the educator evaluation subcommittee on this as the district maneuvers their way through the rocks and shoals of the educational evaluative process.
That's all I heard was rocks and shoals. So I'm the opener and Ross is the closer. We'll be brief. Thank you for allowing us to present to you on behalf of the Educator Evaluation Committee for approval an MOA related to our educator evaluation protocol and most specifically our timeline. We believe that this agreement will help streamline the process and really help provide clarification around the action items and the dates associated with each plan type. We would like for this agreement to take effect for this school year, 2016-2017. Ross and I have been facilitating the Educator Evaluation Committee this spring. The committee itself has been operational since 2012. It's got solid representation, teachers, elementary through high school, administration, NREA representation, and executive board members on the committee, so it's well represented. In 2012, the committee worked to develop our educator evaluation protocol, the associated timeline, which is what we're talking to you about this evening, and then the committee worked to adapt the rubric. So we implemented all of that in 2013, and now we've been in implementation mode for 3 years. The committee decided it was time to stop and reflect on what's working and what could be strengthened. And one of the most immediate needs in terms of strengthening was the timeline itself, in terms of a need for clarification of some language and some dates within each plan. So the committee worked this spring collaboratively to analyze the timeline associated with each plan and make adjustments as necessary, ask for feedback from the association and from the administrative team, and was able to reach agreement with the proposed plan that you have in front of you this evening. So while the evaluation process is part of the collective bargaining process, and the timeline for the collective bargaining process is such that it would not allow for us to implement these changes at the beginning of the school year, we determined that the best course of action was to present the agreement in an MOA. And so the association, including the executive board, is in agreement with that next step, as well as the administrative team, and are also in agreement with the changes that are reflected in this new draft of the timeline. Ross is going to highlight some of the changes made next, and then you're going to inform us, everyone, of the next step, hopefully.
Sure. So as Laura already stated, thank you for having us to briefly go through this with you. So the document that you do have in front of you in the meeting packet includes what's essentially the current plan that was put in place 3 years ago as far as the timeline goes. So on the left-hand side, you can see the current language and the current dates, and then over on the right-hand side in columns are the proposed dates. Anything that's in yellow is a change of some sort. Sometimes it's just a removal of a line, sometimes it's a change in date, sometimes it's clarification of language. But the major changes that were done were based on either a need for the timeline language to match the protocol language, because there were some discrepancies there, a need for the timeline to reflect the process, so the steps that are in the protocol, or a need to eliminate a step that was not part of the protocol. We also needed to make the timeline more reflective of the amount of time that certain tasks take educators and evaluators to do based on that time of year. So for example, the beginning of the school year is a busier time of the school year, so making sure that timelines made sense so that people could be effective with what they were looking at with either creating the goals or approving goals, getting first observations done, those types of things to start making sure that teachers can be effective, and this facilitates, in the end, student learning for our kids. So one of the other major changes was in the improvement plan and the directed growth plans. So those are very supportive plans of educators, making sure that those were very articulate, and essentially it also serves as a checklist to make sure certain parts of those plans are taken care of, and highlights the need to get those things accomplished within those planned timeframes. I guess I would ask if there are any questions about specific changes or changes in general to the timeline.
I do have a general question.
Sure.
And not to put you two on the spot, I'm sorry. But when the climate survey came out, and I realized it was the first year of the educator evaluation, there were words thrown around like oppressive and harassment. I'm assuming, as it's been worked through, that some of those words can be taken away, but what do you see in this that kind of alleviates the burden that was demanded by the state?
Well, our next step will, I think, more
Yeah.
directly address what Nicole's saying, but just in terms of clarity around what's due when, there was some redundancy in language, there was overlap, there were steps, and it was all created initially in good faith. I know because I observed it and was a part of it, but it was also new. So now that we've lived it for a few years, we see, well, that's not critical. That's not a step that needs to be there. And so I think streamlining it and having clarity around what's due when for each one of the plans will help communicate the expectations. And then our next step is going to speak directly to, do you want to talk about what the next step is?
Yeah, I mean, I think before I get there, those statements give me pause to think about, you know, that's not the obviously the spirit of evaluation and observation, and would essentially is feedback to improve learning and facilitate teacher growth. So that gives me pause in one respect. I think what this does, the process of this was teachers and administrators working together on a committee to have open and honest discussion about what was working, what was not working. Now that the district's been in it for 3 years, I came to it with a lens from being in another district. So I think if anything, it was the collaborative process to make improvements on behalf of teachers and administrators, but ultimately students, to make sure that this process is not used in those terms, but used in the terms of you know, improving student learning and through teacher development and growth. So
there's a lot to it.
yeah.
I mean, it's involved, it's complex, so just the sheer volume of it is a lot on the teachers and on everyone.
How do you think this is gonna be received?
Very well received. Everyone's really enthusiastic about it, at least
Right.
the people whom I've spoken with. And we have a good representation on the committee. We have good representation of people on the committee who are representatives for their schools and know that it's a responsibility to take a draft back, say, what do you think, and then bring back recommendations. And so in that part, it's a really healthy committee, I think, and they're excited about it.
And I would say, you know, while Laura and I are presenting the information today, we're not representative. These are not top-down changes that are being made or proposed. It was a collaborative effort to take a look at this. The group had time to look at the document online on Google Sheets to make comments and ask questions, and we did that over the course of probably 2, 3, 4 meetings before arriving on a final document that the executive board for the NREA looked at and the administrative team looked at.
I have 2 questions, but does anyone else have questions, Neil?
Do so. Thank you for presenting. First of all, does the evaluation model also incorporate like lesson planning and so forth? In that, and where I'm going with this is the digital learning and like the SAMR model and so forth that's coming in there. Would that be included if that is part of the process? Would that be included or built into this later? Is that
the protocol, which is essentially the educator plan, evaluation plan for the district, includes a rubric and then also a timeline. So within the rubric, there's 4 standards and a number of indicators and elements, and there are pieces in there where teachers are to receive feedback on how they're integrating technology within either lesson planning or instruction in the classroom. But yeah, those are pieces within what areas of feedback they get.
Thank you.
I've got 2 questions. I know that Superintendent-elect Clenchey has been in several times over the past several weeks. Has she had an opportunity? So she's been involved in this as well?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
We've
Well,
met with her,
yeah.
with Dr. Bates, the
Okay.
4 of us
Yeah.
met.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Sorry, we should have
I think that gets us off on really good footing, right? And then the other question I have is probably more for you, maybe the 3 of you, and I don't know the answer, that's why I'm asking. Does this effort, does this dovetail with any other evaluative process that we need to be cognizant of? Are the dates, I mean, I don't see a lot of fluctuation except for first observation, or any of the dates that have fluctuated do we need to be cognizant of them as we start to do some of our planning at the end of August?
I don't
No.
foresee it, no.
Okay.
I think they did a really nice job collaborating and coming up with this. And again, we're asking for the MOU rather than open up the contract, especially when you're going into negotiations.
Right.
And this has already been vetted through the district's attorney. So I think they did a great job coming up with
Great.
this.
So just to brief, the next step is to take a look at what I was referencing with regards to the rubric, which is adapted. Districts could either adopt or adapt the state model of a rubric for teacher evaluation, which includes 4 standards and ultimately 32 or 33 elements.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at for some collaborative work over the summer is to look at what some other districts have done, is to essentially identify what are the power elements within that, because there is overlap, because there is gray area, but to reduce the amount of areas for feedback into the most essential ones so that they're most effective for teachers to understand what it is that's most important for their development, and how we as evaluators can give the most effective and sort of streamlined feedback to teachers. So sort of, again, coming back to what you said about some feedback from the initial years of this, making sure that we're being effective and teachers are feeling the growth and development through this process.
Kathy?
Now, will that rubric have to be approved by the DESE?
No, because districts can either adopt or adapt on their own. What will have to happen is another MOA with regards to, because it's part of the collective bargaining process, but instead of going into opening it or waiting for negotiations, taking a look at having that in place for the next school year.
Okay.
So we're scheduled to work on that with the committee on August 9th and 10th, that part of it.
So in the fall, they'll be coming back with another Right.
All good?
Awesome.
Thank you very, very much. You need a vote from
Yes,
us?
because this is between you and the teacher's contract, so it has to be approved and signed by the school committee and the unit.
So would someone like to make a motion on behalf of the, accepting the MOA educator evaluation timeline
So
as
moved.
presented? And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Nicole, thank you. All those in favor? You have to
Yes.
abstain. Okay, thank you. It's not unanimous, but it's 6-1.
Appreciate it.
And we have an abstention, but thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for everything you did.
Thank you, on behalf of the committee, thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, appointment of the district physician for the 2016-17 school year. Dr. Bates, I think that's yours.
That is mine. Again, just a point of order so that you have this on your record. Each year, school committee must appoint a school physician. This is Dr. Russell Coleman. He practices out of in Westford. He is currently the school physician also for Groton Dunstable, for the charter school, the Innovation Academy, and the Academy of Notre Dame in Tingsboro. So it's just approving and nominating him and approving his contract for him to be your school physician for 2016-2017.
And we approved him for this past
That's
year.
correct.
So it's the same.
This is it's a
Yes.
reappointment.
Okay.
So can someone make a motion, please? Unless you have questions.
I move that we reappoint Dr. Russell Coleman as district physician,
And
school physician,
for the,
for the 16-17 school year.
thank you.
Second.
Can I have a second, Kathy?
So I do have a
You have a
question. So do
question?
you have any just comments, positive or otherwise on?
I have not heard,
the recruitment?
all I can tell you is I have not heard anything negative this year. So, I haven't had anything glowing, but nothing positive.
And he was
Negative,
vetted,
excuse me.
he was vetted by our district nurse.
That's
was it
correct.
last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that feels pretty good. Okay, any other comments, questions? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Carozolo Fellowship donation, Dr. Bates?
You need to approve, we have a donation of $1,500 being provided by the Perziolo Fellowship to Neshoba Video Broadcast Project. Paul Theriault is the NRHS student who has been awarded this scholarship for a project that they propose to help out the Luther Burbank Middle School, ramp up their video broadcast club so that it's a feeder system. And it's the plan that these funds will be used to help ready these students for the broadcasting at the high school and will help to build a bridge between the two schools.
So we need someone to make a motion to accept
Except this $1,500 donation.
the Carozolo Fellowship donation.
And congratulations to Paul Theriault, too.
Absolutely. Can someone make me a motion?
I move the school committee accept the donation in the amount of $1,500 provided by the
Pirozzolo.
Pirozzolo, sorry.
Fellowship.
Second.
Second, Neil? All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, is this Neil, is this you or Mark? Amending our Article 15?
This is Susan, actually.
Susan? Susan?
Okay, yes, I know.
I'm in.
Here I am, speaking. Thank you. So we had a policy subcommittee meeting before this meeting, and we changed, or we agreed to change the language on, sorry,
That's all right, it's in the packet,
There we go.
everybody can see
Yep.
it.
Article 15, agenda preparation and distribution, section 1. Should I read the old language and the new? or-
Yep,
Okay,
please
so
do.
the old language was that school committee members may request that items be included on the agenda. The agenda shall be prepared by the superintendent in conjunction with the chairperson of the school committee. And we voted to change that to school committee members may request that items be included on the agenda. The agenda shall be set by the chairperson of the school committee with the advice and in consultation with the superintendent.
Okay, any questions, comments? No?
I have a general comment on this, just that this is a inapt the old bylaw is inapt in that the governance is a little bit upside down, where the superintendent is in control of the agenda rather than the governing body of the school committee. So the reason for the modification is so that the bylaw reflects the way governance really ought to happen, which is the school committee's in charge of their own agenda in consultation with the superintendent.
Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion? Mark, you might as well make
I
a motion.
move that the bylaw be amended as proposed in
Second.
your handout.
Second.
Is that gonna work for us?
What, proposed?
Would you like,
Did you want?
Yeah.
like me to read it out?
I think it's an article in the bylaws.
So I'll give you a fuller
Nicole.
motion then.
Hold on a second. Do you have a question?
No, in our review of the bylaws, however, we did notice that there is a roll call.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Required for this particular vote.
Yeah.
2/3.
And a 2/3 majority.
All right. So, let's try. Can we do
So
this
I'll
again?
do it in a fuller motion form. So I move that Article 15 of the Neshoba Regional School District School Committee bylaws be amended as proposed, in that Article 15 read, Article 15, Agenda Preparation and Distribution. Section 1, school committee members may request that items be included on the agenda. The agenda shall be set by the chairperson of the school committee with the advice of and in consultation with the superintendent.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Kathy, thank you. And roll call, Nicole?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Lorraine? Aye.
Mark,
Chuck?
yes.
Mark? Kathy?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yeah.
And Neil?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nicole, thank you. Okay, the next item is the ASOP Attendance Management and Substitute Placement System. Kathy Codian, we'll let you take us through that.
Okay, this year, the Personnel Subcommittee has been looking at various aspects of the district operations for what we term efficiencies, ways to improve what we do and also to save money if possible. We asked Dr. Bates to provide information about the ASOP absence and substitute management system. We did this to follow up on an inquiry that HR had made in December of 2015 for this system. This system is an online absence management system and also a way to assign substitutes. It's a substitute placement system. Everything happens online. The teachers put their absences in online. The substitutes can look for substitute positions online. And we had heard from Dr. Graham about one of the issues that the chairs have to deal with a lot is who needs a sub, who's got a sub, and what all is going on. And this would alleviate that. Anybody with access, any administrator with access to the system could see in real time who has a sub and what is needed. Furthermore, in the online system, a teacher can put notes in to his or her principal and also to the sub and attach lesson plans. So it's a very efficient system. About a third of the school districts in the state of Massachusetts utilize this. The system also integrates with HR systems and payroll systems, so it eliminates the paperwork that would have to go on for filling out forms and getting them to HR, etc. The costs, these are, we got an estimated cost from ASOP. There is a one-time startup cost, which is $57.50, so you pay that once, and then there's an ongoing cost, recurring cost, which they, at the high end, would be $10,725, which is close to $5,000 less than what we had budgeted this year for a sub-caller. So there would be, we have the money in FY17 to cover this, and I know that when I worked in Concord, we had it, and administrators and teachers liked it a lot. I think you know what your experience was.
We had
in
in Foxborough, and once it got up and running and so forth, the teachers just loved it. It was very good.
So the amount that we had in the estimate was based on a count of employees needing a substitute of 385 people, and that's at the high end. What the district would have to do with the principals and with HR is do an audit of who actually needs a sub. So that number is likely to be lower. And then the cost for employees needing a sub, it's a unit price of $2.25 a person per year. And for people who don't need subs, it's $1.25 a year. So people would go online. If they were going to be out, they could do it in advance. And it also has a report writer function, so we can look at patterns of absenteeism. And part of the training is how you can look for efficiencies within your own system to do this. And there is a little cartoony thing that sort of gives an overview, I think. Is this what?
So any discussion while we're waiting to see if that's gonna come up, because if it's not, Neil?
I do have two questions, actually. So, does this system also do like vetting of applicants for substitute teachers?
No.
No.
What it does is, we do that,
Okay.
but people would be, the substitutes that we currently have would be given an account. And then the individual that I spoke with at ASOP said that subs that work in other districts but who have access to ASOP look for other districts that have ASOP and they can apply there to be a sub. So that's how, I asked about recruiting, do they help us with recruiting? They don't, but part of what happens is a lot of people want to sub 5 days a week, and maybe they can't get it in one district, but they can get it in others, but they would still have to go through our application system.
Thank you. The second question is, and it's basically point of knowledge, really. Do substitute teachers get evaluated? We just got done talking about an evaluation model.
There's no formal evaluation. They usually get, it's through whatever the teachers refer back to the building principals, good, so forth. You'll find sometimes teachers will have a favorite substitute that they really do well in their class, and they'll put it in, and they'll usually go in. Or on the reverse side, someone who wasn't so good, and they'll notify, and I know myself, I would get notifications from principals saying, we do not want this sub in our building again.
So,
But there's no formal written evaluation.
does personnel talk about this at all?
No,
Like
but it
Talked about what?
substitute
evaluating substitute
teachers,
teachers.
like
That's not,
That's
we're
a
not-
separate,
that's-
and yes, that's a separate issue,
administration.
and that's something we're gonna, I mean, Dr. Bates has given us some wonderful ideas, but that is something we need to look at in the upcoming calendar year. You know, who's our complement, what we're paying them, should we relook at the scale for pay? We're looking at the requirements for becoming a substitute. So there's a whole discussion we need to have with Superintendent Clancy.
Thank you.
Lynn?
Did I read in the little white Kathy that when you look for a substitute, if it's a math substitute, you will get a math substitute?
They try to.
They try to
So it's
match.
not just a
Yeah.
babysitting service,
Right.
it's just.
Yes.
That's nice. Okay.
And they have, I think when we get into the training aspect of it, there are a lot of details that we're not getting into tonight.
Okay.
That says, many districts have told me they have seen a substantial increase in their substitute pool by doing some quick advertising that their district uses ASOP. In general, substitutes will gravitate to districts who have ASOP because it means more job opportunities for them. And they love working in ASOP because it's easy to use and it's fair. So everything is done online. In 24, I use the example, and anybody who taught has known this, either you get up in the middle of the night and you're sick, or you have a sick kid, and you can just go right to ASOP and plug everything in. You don't have to get up at 5 in the morning and
So-
take care of business.
Just to be clear, the way this would be funded is,
Well, Dr. Bates had an idea,
Well, you currently have budgeted
$15,085.
for a substitute caller.
Correct.
And it would be roughly the same amount of money.
It's about
And
$13.90 over
so,
that.
Yep.
But do we have anything in FY16 that we could pay the
Well,
7?
Why-
As it was starting to
why?
close out, we'd have to check.
Oh, okay, no,
why,
no, it was
you know
just-
what, I almost
no, I
don't
will
wanna
give
do
you-
that, just so we
All
can
right.
track it and hold, but great
No,
idea.
no, I thought that it was mentioned that it could have been
Right.
something else. That's okay.
Well, it could be,
No, but it's a one-off. And
The startup.
the recommendation, yes, the recommendation from the Personnel Subcommittee is that we try it this year, evaluate it in the middle of the year when we're in budget mode, and then make a decision for FY18.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good. So then the current substitute color position
We'll just leave it
Would be on hold.
unfilled.
would be vacated?
Unfilled.
Okay.
Unfilled, yes.
All right. Well, then we'll just send, okay. All right. So any other questions on that? Nicole?
I don't wanna go down a wormhole, so stop me. But can someone just walk me through like the last minute, substitute, like what happens now if someone at 8:30 decides that they can't teach their first grade class? And then how would this help? Would it help, or would it still have to be like the old-fashioned way where you just get on the phone and call?
It can be both. I mean, usually you can go right into, you can enter it into ESOP and see if somebody can get here.
Is that what I'm supposed-
Or, again, just from what I remember when I was a principal, I would grab a para or somebody to cover until I could get somebody in, that sort of thing, so.
There's really not a lot to do though in those last minute
No.
situations.
Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
are we good?
Well, are we gonna vote to
Yes.
include it? Do we
Yes.
wanna see the cartoon or not?
I think they're not gonna be able to get that
Okay.
running for us, but we'll make sure that it is on, well, it is, there's a link.
Packet if you wanna watch it individually at home.
Um,
Pleasure tonight.
For you.
It's only
Yeah,
about
when
2
we get
minutes
home.
long, so it's not a real time.
All right,
sink.
so I need someone to make a motion to, on the ASOP absence management and substitute placement system for FY16-17 school year. Everyone, anyone?
Can I move it?
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
So moved.
Well, I didn't make a
I
motion.
move that we implement the ASOP absence and substitute management system for the 16-17 school year and evaluate it at mid-year.
Thank you. And
Second.
do we have a second from Mark, and all those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you very much. Okay. I'm gonna skip down one real quick. Superintendent request for professional services is mine. We can do this quickly. Superintendent-elect Clenchey has requested additional, let's see, up to 10 additional days of Dr. Bates's time because of some late-breaking activities and things that have been discovered, which Dr. Bates is gonna get into. And so that would come out of the professional services budget. It will also help ensure the transition. She has spent considerable amounts of her own personal time in the district, but without them here together, the handoff could be that much smoother. And there's a couple of other activities that we would like to identify Dr. Bates to help us with. It does have a hard stop at I'm asking for up to 10 days. We may not need all 10 days. We would be paying Dr. Bates at his current per diem. But it's not a salary item, it's a professional services item, which comes out of the budgeted professional services line item in the budget. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Kathy?
Do we have a do not exceed amount?
We can say do not exceed 10 days, but the money, well, it would be at the,
6,500.
So it's
So-
an amount, we would be approving up to a certain amount of days and an amount not to exceed.
yes, yeah, in the
Okay.
motion, you.
No, I think it's a great idea. I'm so grateful to Dr. Bates for everything he's done, and I know, even though he pretends to want to leave us, that it's going
He's
to be
gonna
difficult
cry.
for him. I think he needs a transition plan.
So let's pay the money for him to transition? No offense, but no.
He's a pain. No, but I think that it makes a lot of sense if we were hiring someone who was a brand new superintendent, we'd be paying a lot more money for a mentor throughout the year. And like you said, there are so many things, I think it's money well spent. It's an investment in her success.
Exactly, so,
Successful.
any other comments? Okay, can I get a motion?
I move that we engage Dr. Curtis Bate for professional services in transition for amount not to exceed 10 days of service or $6,500 as a transition for bringing in a new superintendent.
Perfect. Have a second?
Second.
Susan, seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Okay, Dr. Bates. District facilities issues.
Okay.
So this is one of the reasons why we need you to stay.
My last week has been uniquely changed with a number of facilities issues that have been brought to my attention. Excuse me?
Okay, so we're
That's
not,
only
so we're
Wednesday?
gonna let him do his thing.
So the first one, and Dom Esposito is here.
And Dom is,
Hello.
I'm Dominic Esposito. I'm the plumber and HVAC technician for the district.
you have a seat, thanks.
The first one, and Don Lowe can also speak to this. We received a letter from the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, but compliance inspection wastewater at Florence Sawyer and Emerson. This letter was received by your town administrator after an inspection to the wastewater treatment facilities at Emerson and Florence Sawyer schools. And this facility currently is being maintained by Whitewater Incorporated, which I'm familiar with, usually towns that have well water and so forth, and we utilize them also in Boxborough. The DEP performed an inspection of the facility on May 19th of this year, and they issued a letter of non-compliance for equipment not working. The DEP requires a written evaluation describing the cause of the issues and recommended actions with a written schedule to be returned, to return all equipment to working order, and the response is due by July 5th. I spoke personally with David Boucher, who is with Whitewater, on Friday the 24th. And David sent me a detailed history of the problem dating back to the installation of the GE system back in the spring of 2008. Briefly just go through, there's been a history of failures of pumps and mixers over the time that they've been installed. They worked with equipment representatives to upgrade or for more sturdy pumps and mixers. The same situation has occurred in many other facilities, he had informed me. And he's been working with a representative who has agreed to supply pumps and mixers for free. He did that, as a matter of fact, in Boxborough. He just told me. And he has provided pricing, which I gave you. He said he had been working, he had made recommendations requesting an extension to the deadline due to the extenuating circumstances of the sudden departure of the facilities director and the transitioning of a new superintendent. Dom, I don't know if you want to just briefly go over what is the problem with the...
The issue is we have a primary and secondary set of pumps. Obviously, it's a critical system as it is wastewater treatment. And essentially, we've had issues with those pumps from day one. They've just been unreliable. We've actually had sewerage backups within the building as a result of issues with the pumps. So there's been extensive cleanups that fortunately are covered under the costs that we provide, that Whitewater provides us with. So they're just, we've just had constant ongoing issues with those particular set of pumps. And as of right now, they're completely inoperable.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
This all sounds kind of scary.
Yep.
So what I need to know is the safety
Yep.
of the staff and the students in the buildings.
Yep.
And that's what I think we need to know first and foremost.
Yep. Safety, as far as a sewerage backup within, let's say, the school itself, Florence Sawyer School, I think is pretty minimal. The real concern is just the non-compliance. Obviously, in any sort of non-compliance issue, we want to become compliant again. immediately. And as a result, the longer we remain non-compliant, the harder, the inspectional process could go down the road.
So can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, I gotta do this. Thank you so much for being here and for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
You just said that when you're non-compliant, you want to address it immediately. And when was this determined that it was non-compliant?
The inspection was done on May 19th, and the letter was dated, I believe it was the 20, Dawn sent it to me on the 24th, so. But my understanding is that this has been ongoing, and some of the quotes that we have that David Boucher sent me date back to March of 2016. So obviously, there were some questions then in trying to get things rectified.
Yes, there were some minimal failures, and now we've hit a critical stage where it's a critical failure.
So did the district know about the minimal failures? And I'm not putting you on the spot, so if my tone sounds funky, it's not you.
No, not at all. I'm considered a primary contact with Whitewater, as it's directly related to the plumbing industry, but typically they've always gone through the facilities director. So I'm not sure if they just weren't aware of who to contact
So you know what?
due to the circumstances.
Okay, so we were non-compliant back in November,
Back in May.
March.
Well, we don't know that, the letter came, they were
Okay.
here on May 19th, and we were not compliant on May 19th.
So what's the fix?
The fix is, unfortunately, the replacement of the pumps. And at least the cost of the pumps are null on our end. And essentially, it's just the additional work to make the bracketing system that's there work for those new pumps.
So who covers the cost of this? Is it the district or is it the town?
Yes, it would be the district.
And what's the cost, do you know?
I do not know offhand, and I apologize, I wasn't
That's
sure.
all right,
This was
that's all right,
a question that
that's
was
all right.
brought up to me, so I
Don-
can
Don,
follow up.
on the invoices that, not invoices, the quotes that were sent,
Yep.
they're all different types, and I've listed them out. So it says pumps, VD rails, mounts, and so forth, and then the mechanical crew and supervisor and manager, but it's all broken out differently.
Yep.
Do they have to do all of this, or is it just some of the quotes? Because I have a total of $68,000.
And some of them have the same dates on them too.
Right.
There's different.
So
Like
we need to
different
know what.
things that they have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need to know that by next week.
Soon.
Or we're not meeting in order for,
If it's okay, I'd like to consult with them tomorrow, and I will get back to you immediately.
okay,
Okay.
okay. Lynn, and wait, first Neil, he had his hand up before, I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Well, I'm just looking at the timeline here of 4/13/16 for pump upgrade, and it looks like it's I'm guessing that's a quote, because it's Q 413. I can't, if I click on that, it's not giving me the PDF, but in order to put that quote in, and according to the letter, it looks like it's at least March. How long have these critical failures been happening?
I'll be honest with you, all of that had been sent to the existing director of facilities. So to be honest, I'm not aware of how long these issues have been ongoing.
Where I'm going with this is, I'm just, because I know that the 5-year capital plan was a little tardy in coming in towards the budget season, and was this on there? Because this appears to be
No, we were
a
told there
known-
were no capital expenditures
This
this year.
appears to be a known issue that's going beyond there.
Yeah.
No, if you keep the arrow down.
And Lynn, you had a question?
It's not an
Yeah,
attachment.
he said that these pumps have been a problem since 2008 when it was installed, so my question is, was it engineered?
Well, from the way the representative told me, he said it is, and that's why they will replace the pumps free of charge. It's just all the other peripheral stuff that they have to add in to make these.
But it sounds like the pumps are too small. it doesn't sound like the right pumps went in.
Sounds like a design issue.
Yeah, so, I mean, and if we can document that this went back to 2008, then that has to go back to the installation, that's not on us.
They're gonna
Well,
do it
that-
for
that's
Yeah,
what
but what's
they-
on us
No.
is the maintenance
No.
of
Yeah.
it, Lynn,
It's how you
right?
maintain a pump that's too small. It can't work, because are you getting larger pumps?
I don't believe the pumps are actually larger in size. It's a different specific manufacturer that has proven reliability. And this is something that I find critical myself. In building the new center school, unfortunately, I wasn't there during the process to oversee what we were really putting into the building. And over the past couple years, I have run into issues with specific pump manufacturers that we've used over there. You know, pumps that are manufactured here in Massachusetts weren't used. There were pumps that were used that were manufactured in Georgia. And as it turns out, it also makes getting replacement parts an issue. Finding contractors that are knowledgeable on those particular pumps an issue. So it really comes down to the material that was used, and
So our
I-
water is coating the pumps.
it could be, yeah, the lower grade pump potentially was used, and what they're recommending is a pump that they're familiar with, that they've used in most of their facilities, that they've proven reliability with.
Are you putting this out to bid at all, or are you just gonna go with?
This is something I'll have to work on. I'll be again. This is something that's just recently been brought to my attention. So what I'll do is I'll
Okay, so,
share the proper steps.
so before you ask a question, we've got several of these to get through, so let's just identify what we need to do next, how much it's gonna cost, where the money is coming from, and any additional activity that's gonna be required.
Right, we also have to find out if the extension letter will be accepted.
Yep.
So David Boucher has written the extension letter. I gave him permission to send it off to DEP, and we'll see what the response is. So,
All right.
Do you have a critical question?
I'm trying to understand this. So, I'm looking at a work authorization form dated March 30th, 2016.
Yep.
And it describes work, and then there's an $18,000
Right.
price tag.
yep.
Never done. It was never done. Never brought, we didn't know. And
No, we
Done.
didn't, no.
And then you go, and there's another one for May 30th and one for May 12th, and this is all new information.
Yep.
And this is stuff that had failed and needed to be fixed
Mhm.
and has the potential to be
Oh.
not good.
Where was that money coming from?
Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know, that's gonna be handled. We're gonna figure that out. So, Kathy, are you,
I can't believe it.
okay,
That's all, I'm sorry, I don't
That's all?
wanna take
Nope,
up time.
sorry.
I just can't, never
right.
mind.
Neil?
Dr. Bates, would you know, if this extension is not approved, and we have people working in the buildings, does that mean that the buildings will have to be vacated and people will not be able to do their jobs through the summer until this is fixed?
I would,
As of right now, it's a redundant pump system. So currently we're operating on one pump system. In the event of that one pump system that we are relying on failing, then in turn it would cause that type of chain reaction where we would have to.
But if they don't extend the deadline that we have, can they force the building to be unoccupied through that
my
period?
guess, Neil, because it's summer and children aren't in the building, I think that's a high probability they'll extend it. And again, the circumstances of changing over of people in charge and so forth, that would be my guess. I don't know that for a
We're looking
fact.
pretty favorable to get the extension.
Okay, so you're gonna get us the information because Dr. Bates has got a few more of these to get us
Yeah.
through. Okay, Dr. Bates, thank you all for the
Next
question.
one, high school
know.
fire pump. Dom had given me this, and you were given a quote back in 2014
Yes.
to fix the high school fire pump, and you want to talk about, it's the base, right?
Yes, it's, now this is a very large pump, and when I say a large pump, the pump is the size of this table. And this pump, because we're on a well water system, we don't run off of the city water pressure pumps. This is our pump for the system. So essentially, if a sprinkler head goes off, this pump kicks on to essentially put out the fire. Now this pump, as large as it is, it's mounted on a base that's been compromised. It's got quite extensive rust along the base. The brackets holding it down into the cement are actually rusting, and the pump itself, when it runs, it actually sprays water all over the pump room itself. So now the water stops when it does shut off, which obviously doesn't make it critical at that point, but when the pump does run, it's spraying water all over the electrical panel that's nearby and on the other pump systems that we actually have in that room. Now the only time that we typically kick the pump on is through an annual test that we typically do in the summer. So it's a once.
Unless we need it in an
Unless
emergency.
we need it in an emergency, yep.
So safety again is, and,
Yes.
and again, Dom, it's not, I just need you to help us understand.
Yes, yep.
Okay,
I might actually have pictures as well if that helps clarify, but again, it is critical due to the importance of the integrity of that base of that motor. When that pump kicks on, you can see the torque that it actually has, and it just does not look stable with the condition that it's in right now. And this is going back over 2 years that they've actually recommended, when we used to use Norel fire suppression systems, they actually used to recommend, they have recommended repair of that base in the past. So this has been an ongoing issue for more than 6 years. So, but we actually haven't gotten quotes to resolve the issue, and that's something that I worked on. I have gotten that one estimate so far. It's been very difficult to try and find a more than just one contractor that would pursue the work for us. So, because of the scope of the work, it's dismantling a large pump that requires hoisting because of the weight of the pump. So it requires hoisting to get it out of the way, to replace the base, to cement it, and then to remount the pump, to laser align it, and to rebuild the seals in the pump that are leaking.
so it sounds like a lot of work.
Yes, it's very labor intensive.
And my guess is that this is a 2-year-old quote, so I would suggest getting an up-to-date quote.
Yes, I will, and but I don't expect to see it raised too much more. Yeah.
Okay, now I know we're gonna have questions. Neil?
Okay, a few things. So we have budgeted some pretty extensive testing that takes place each year. Fire suppression is supposed to be one of them. You just said that the former company has been recommending that this is done. What about the new company when they did the tests?
Yes, the new company in visual inspections and seeing what actually happens. Now again, it doesn't, we're required to meet a 500 feet per minute at each downspout throughout the entire building, and we have met those requirements. So we're not technically in non-compliance, but when you're physically there, you're in the room and you see that large pump kick on, you don't want to be in that room because you can see the integrity of that base is compromised.
So it's a safety hazard.
So it's a safety hazard.
When they did all the work on the sprinkler system, that I think it cost us $40,000 or something within the last year or so
Yes,
to do.
unfortunately.
Why wasn't this brought up? I mean, this is part of the system, so
Yeah.
why wasn't this? I mean, I don't know. I'm not. You know. I mean,
Yeah.
Do you know why
Yeah.
this was not brought up? I mean,
To be honest, I'm not sure, and I've brought this up. I have a priorities list that I email every year to the director of facilities. So I have submitted this every single year that I've had it in my email. And to be honest, I don't have an answer why it wasn't submitted at that particular time.
And to be clear, this wasn't on any 5-year capital plan.
No, it was not.
Okay, that's great. Lynn?
How old is the pump?
The pump itself was installed back in 1998 when they remodeled the high school.
Okay, and so you guys have followed all of the warranties and maintenance stuff and Because when you talk about water going out, that tells me a seal's gone somewhere.
Exactly, yep.
So,
That's part of the process is when they remove the motor, they can actually get to the pump, to the seal. And again, this work would need to be, obviously it's shutting off the fire pump, so it's a time-sensitive issue where we also need to do this work in the summertime when we have minimal occupancy in the building. This would not be work that could be completed while school is in session. And now this work, because of how labor-intensive it is, could take more than a week. So in which case we'd also be off, the fire suppression system would be offline for more than a week.
So I have a question. How do we ensure that the work that Dom has been doing, I'm starting to hear a trend, I'm not sure if 2 is a trend yet, that you've been consistently, I know, that you've been consistently letting people know that we have issues that need to be addressed and they haven't been addressed. So how do we ensure that what you are doing gets to the superintendent, gets to whomever else needs to, the towns? If the towns need to be included, I would assume that the town needs to be made aware of this.
It'd be a nice touch.
I've made folders on each one,
Okay.
because I only have one more day.
No, you don't. You have 11 more days.
And I've kept Superintendent Clenchey apprised of these situations.
Okay.
And next week, we'll be back. And the biggest thing, again, is sitting down with the town administrators and really talking about this and making out a plan and prioritizing what really needs to get done.
and if you have trouble finding people to quote it, let me know. I'll get
Okay.
some names.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can we go on to the next one unless
I'm
someone
afraid
has
to
a...
go on.
Well, we have to.
I can't believe it.
Okay, let's go.
This is-
Dr. Bates?
This is, and for me personally, this is one that bothers me the most. And it's, well, there are a couple that bother me, but you currently have in your district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 oil tanks.
Yes.
Right, oil tanks. 4 of them underground, 1 above.
Yep.
Do you want to tell them, or do you want me to tell them?
Somebody shut the windows, please.
They-
Because it's hot and the air's on, so I need the air.
These tanks have never been evaluated by law. They are supposed to be evaluated every 3 years if they're underground.
Did we know about them?
Did you know about the tanks?
Did
that
the
they were
district
underground?
know about them?
I
Here's
can't-
how, so again, my job description is HVAC and plumbing. As I have grown and gained from my experiences here, the issues that I've recently come up to is over at the Florence Sawyer School. Last year we had an issue in pretty much in the middle of winter where the electronic probe that tells us the liquid level in the oil tank had stopped working. So essentially it either meant that we had a tank collapse or it also could have meant that there was a tank probe issue. As it turns out, it seems to be a tank probe issue. But due to the age of the monitoring system for the tank, it's something where they can't simply just replace the probe, and I've pursued them on just simply replacing the probe. But as it turns out, the only resolve for the monitoring system is to simply upgrade the entire system.
You can't just put a new probe in.
So what are we looking at for that, Dom?
These are the costs.
This is because we
Well,
have
that's
a
what the
proprietary system.
Environmental Protection Agency has to, well, he's looking at that. I spoke with Guile Steele Perkins at the Mass Department of Environmental Protection in Worcester. He informed me that if the oil tank is only used for heat and oil, there's no inspection needed. But if the oil tank is underground and/or if it's used for a generator, now they're not connected to any of the
They are not
generators,
connected to a
but
generator.
because they're underground, they're supposed to be checked every 3 years by a licensed third-party inspector.
The monitors themselves are supposed to be inspected to ensure that the tanks have not shown signs of compromise, that the tanks are not leaking. They also have monitoring wells in the soil around the tank to ensure that essentially the tank has integrity. And that's what has not been inspected. As far as I know, we have not seen any paperwork since its installation back in 1999, or 1995, I'm sorry.
Neil?
So are the monitors saying that they're not leaking at this point? Like, we don't know, that's not like the end of the whole conversation here, right, that they're leaking? We do not know that, right?
It
Okay.
doesn't appear that way because currently the way that we do things now, that the monitoring system has gone down, is we actually use a stick to stick the tank and see what the level looks like. And as of right now, in the summer, we did we converted over to propane on the domestic hot water. So currently, we're not using any propane, and the stick level is showing consistent. So it seems as though we're not losing oil, which is a good sign. It looks like it's an issue with the probe. And to that same sense, I'm also working with this particular company that I have a quote from is ComTank, whom I've used in the past. And they're a great contractor, but I am looking for other estimates and other contractors as well. Their total estimate is $12,750.
Do we know for sure that there was not a tank collapse when you said that?
To be honest, there is no. I have, high hopes that is not the case. But unfortunately, without that monitoring system in place and without actually inspecting the monitoring wells that are in the ground, there is no real way to know for sure.
Are those tanks anywhere near where kids are going to be walking around or any faculty or staff or whatnot? So if it did collapse, we could have an empty space that they could fall into?
Yes, it's well, it wouldn't be necessarily an empty space that they fall into, but the tank at the Florence Sawyer School is located around back where the gymnasium is, and then we have the lower field. So if we did have a collapse, it would potentially leak through the soils and into the field.
It wouldn't create like a sinkhole or anything like that they could fall into?
I don't believe so. It's also on a concrete pad. So for the tank to implode and for the pad to collapse in, I think is an unlikely situation.
Okay. You have, sorry.
That's all right.
You have one underground at Emerson, you have here, this
Yep.
building, right? You have one at Florence Sawyer, you have one at the high school, and you have one at Mary Rollins.
Yep. And as far as I know, now again, these inspections are supposed to be done every 3 years. And as far as I know, I'm going back to 2009 is the only documentation I have over at the Hale School. In which case, I used ComTank. We actually converted that oil tank over to a water storage tank for the fire department.
And that was confirmed by the town administrator in Stowe.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's the only
How
documentation
did we
I
know
have.
about Hale, but we didn't know about any of the others? I mean, I know you don't know.
I can
We're-
respond to that.
Well,
How did we know about Hale?
Because we had discontinued the tank, it became an issue of the fire department, and you're not allowed to have a tank with oil in it that's unused. And it came on an article in the town meeting to pull the tank because you can't have
But
a
how
tank.
how did Stowe know about their tank and we didn't know in Bolton
I
about?
believe there was an issue with the monitoring system because they had to replace a number of keys on the keypad. So I believe that there were issues with the monitoring system there, and that's why at that point they rebuilt the monitoring system that was there and ensured it's certified for the next 3 years.
How long have we had problems with the monitoring system at Florence Sawyer?
This has just become an issue this past year.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
So what size is this tank?
Should we go on to the
That
next
particular
one?
tank is
Yeah,
5,000
Let's go to the
gallons
next one, guys.
at
Next.
Florence Sawyer.
Next one.
Next one is the hot water heater at the high school.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead, Don.
Okay, so over at the high school, we have two 300-gallon oil-fired water heaters at the high school. Now, in the boys' locker room alone, we have about 35 showers that serve the boys' locker room. And after any particular event, obviously, the boys shower. So one 300-gallon water heater that we have serving that school would not suffice. So that's the reason for the two tanks that we actually have. Now the issue that we have and the reason why we had to condemn the water heater on the left was because the tank was actually leaking. It was leaking into the burner chamber So where the oil burner fires into the burner chamber was actually filled with water. So we had to, I actually had to isolate the tank and completely drain it down. So right now we're running on one 300-gallon water heater, and in which case that one is actually the least reliable tank of the two that we actually have. And the reasons being is the burners are getting up there in age. They have been inspected on an annual basis, and we have had repairs done. However, they're starting to show their age. And to be honest, with the quote that I have received from Royal Steam Heater Company on repairing the tank is not what I would recommend to do. The tank itself is 14 years old, and to put this amount of money into a tank that's 14 years old just does not make sense
And
to
the
me.
amount of money that they want us to spend to repair it is,
15,500.
Yep.
okay, unexpected, but that's unexpected, right? That wasn't something
That's
that the
unexpected.
district just kind of let slide.
Same thing. This actually just happened back in April.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
And when did we find about the cost?
Actually, I've been trying to get the quotes to finalize how much it would cost to repair, and I just recently received that estimate. And as soon as I did receive it, I sent it over to Kirk.
Okay, so this happened in April, and we're just, and thank you again. You're gonna hear that a million times. Thank you for that. What's the cost to replace it if it's a 16, 18-year-old?
We could be talking, double the figures to repair it or more. So
So excuse me one
You need
second.
to-
Replace it or
replace it.
repair it?
To
to
replace it.
yeah.
Pat, what's our discretionary spend in facilities this year?
199,000.
What do you mean, what, for this
I-
fiscal?
I need to know, I need to
FY17.
understand for FY17.
I can't tell you off the top of my
You
head
can't,
right now.
all right, so
No, I
that
don't.
wasn't a fair question. I guess where I'm trying to go with this is, it's starting to get overwhelming.
So I happen
So,
to have open.
one second, yep, one second.
that
So
page.
I really think we need to get an understanding of the total cost, the severity, and the prioritized list. And certainly safety is the first thing we want to make sure of. But what is it, Mark? If you don't know it, we're
So
going
I'm
on.
reading off of the capital plan that was presented to us in February, which
Is the
had
number there?
$300,000 for various items in the high school. It's both maintenance and special projects. And special projects was 116
Okay,
in that list.
so we can't solve for that now, but at least we know what the ballpark is. Yes, Neil?
No one wants the kids to take cold showers, but is that actually a state mandate as far as what you're supposed to be able to supply to the students?
Yes, you are required to supply a minimum of 120-degree water in any commercial or educational facility.
So without that hot water heater working, we do not meet the minimum standards?
There's potential, yeah, but there are potential, especially in the wintertime where the cold water temperature is much lower than it is in the summertime. I don't foresee us meeting those demands.
I would
in the
imagine
winter.
food services would have to have access to hot water also in order to sterilize, clean.
Yeah.
whatever.
Actually, they are on a low temperature rinse, and actually there is enough hot water there. There's actually a separate electric water heater in the kitchen to supply the 140 degrees required to the 3-bay sink. So,
Okay, Lynn, real quick.
So is it you that would be looking up the estimates and looking at options?
that's what I have been, yes. This
So is it possible that we could do point of view still now?
I would like to explore that option, and I will.
Would you, please?
Yes.
Make that
Yep.
one of the options?
Okay, let's
Last
move
one.
on. Is this the last one?
Right now, this was just brought this week. We have preliminary samplings of paint in this building, of lead paint.
Not confirmed?
Stop. Just let him finish, please.
Dawn's done a great job today. Dawn Lowe, Lorraine, Dom, Rich Maglione, and myself met. Dom got a hold of a consultant to come in to take samples in the areas. Her name's Michelle LeMay,
Yes.
and she spent quite a while here today, and she's coming back again tomorrow.
Yep.
to finish up taking samples. The good thing, preliminary reports do not show any high hazardous areas, risk areas, but they have found some moderate risk areas.
Yes.
And in her report that she will provide us will outline steps to necessitate and reduce risk for exposure. I don't know if any of you have had experience with dealing with lead paint. I have as an administrator, and it has to be abated and so forth. So all of those things we'll have in that report within this building. And it was really found when we are moving the technology team upstairs, and if you go up and look at the peelings of the paint, but I have to again credit Dawn for really bringing this.
Discovering yet another issue, thank you.
Fortunately, we found that the paint that's actually peeling from the ceiling does not contain lead. However, most of the walls typically do.
So let's be really clear about where this is. We have children in all of these buildings. Where is this?
This is pretty much throughout the entire building, and primarily the walls. Most of the ceilings in most rooms do not contain lead, but
Is it in the classrooms?
It is in the classrooms downstairs. Yes.
She's testing, is it gonna confirm?
She is tested.
She's
done
testing.
Preliminary testing, yes.
It was came back positive.
Now, as of right now, there are only moderate risks. The things that are looked at are flaking or peeling paint, and as of right now, the paint itself seems to be sustainable. Right now we don't have any particular areas that are peeling or that children can really get to. Some of the lead paint that is existent is underneath a few layers, and in some cases she's going to outline what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. The primary issues are the windows, in particular the two classrooms that we have downstairs. Not on the inner portion of the windows, but the outer portion of the windows does contain lead. So what we have to do as a temporary step for right now, is we actually have to seal the windows and ensure that the windows cannot be opened.
Dom, how do we get, again, thank you. How did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where we didn't know about this? How can we be painting rooms, walls, and ceilings and not know? Is it not customary?
These laws have been in effect for over 8 years. And again, this is all in self-betterment. This is something that I've pursued in the job description that I have. I care for the students. I care for, the last thing I would want is to drill a hole in a wall and create.
So the only way we know about it is because you happen to find out about it based on a class you're taking. Make sure that man has professional development money. I'm serious. Okay, so stop for a second. Don Lowe, the administrator of the town of Bolton, is here. And I know that some of these issues were concerning to you, so.
So, I think I'll come up.
Please.
I don't know what sequence you want to go in, but I've read all of the correspondence, I believe, between Whitewater and the district as far as the wastewater treatment facility goes, and it's, unless I'm misreading something, there's more than just, the pumps keep on failing. There was this year, I don't believe we did maintenance, if I remember correctly. So, let me repeat that. Maintenance on the equipment wasn't done.
And that's the district's responsibility.
That's the district's responsibility. The suddenly departed facilities manager, Bill Cleary, he's directly responsible for it. I don't see where there was any maintenance done based on the communication that we've received from Whitewater. We received a bill for May from wastewater, an excessive bill, because of work they had to do to affect things that hadn't been done. And I don't know how many people on the school committee know it or not, but the town of Bolton uses a small percentage of the wastewater treatment facility for a couple of town buildings, the public safety building, the library, and I believe the Houghton building. And we pay 15% of the bill every year, and the district pays 85%. And as I said, we got a whopper in for May. And I've already communicated to Dr. Bates that, as far as I'm concerned, the town has absolutely no intention of paying our share anything for the May bill, because, you know, this is not normal. We pay for normal maintenance and things like that. Well, the normal maintenance appears to not have been done according to what Whitewater is saying. So it certainly must have exacerbated a situation, and I don't think the town of Bolton should be paying for it. And Dr. Bates indicated earlier this morning when I was in because there's no sense taking your vacation at home, you should come in here and do this. So Dr. Bates agreed that given the situation, the district shouldn't be, that the town shouldn't be paying for anything like that. But that's a small issue, you know, relatively speaking to everything else we've got about who pays what. But to me, it seems like there's more than just, you know, pumps that keep on failing. And I would think that if pumps keep on failing over 8 years, maybe we wouldn't wait 8 years to do something about it either. And just the whole theme here, and I'm only going to say this once, and then I think I'm going to focus on the point issues, but I'm hearing things that were known for 2 years, for 8 years, for however many years, and I just have to ask the school committee, where's the oversight here? Where is the oversight? We have a position of a facilities manager. We have a position currently, not after this week, of an assistant superintendent who oversees the facilities manager. That's the way the reporting structure goes. It doesn't report to the superintendent, it reports to the assistant superintendent. Where's the line of oversight here? I don't get it. These are not little issues. At the high school, the fire pump has been spraying for, we had a price 2 years ago, and nothing was done in 2 years? You gotta be kidding me. If there was a fire, if that pump failed, if that pump outright failed, you'd have to shut the high school down because you couldn't feed your fire suppression system. Or God forbid, there are people in the school and there's a fire and you can't feed your fire suppression system. That's a big deal. And obviously I'm upset about that. As far as, trying to take them in order, the oil tanks, again, from what I believe I read, and I've read an awful lot in the past week or so, as has Dr. Bates, so I don't claim to remember everything and have everything completely accurate, but it appears that the 2 oil tanks at Emerson and the one over at Florence Sawyer have never been reported to the EPA. Forget
Are we exposed?
the inspection that's supposed to be happening every 3 years. The EPA now knows about them because we went and told them. But, up until last week, apparently they didn't. Clearly, somebody in the district knew, because this guy knew. And I don't think he was keeping it to himself. So somebody in a line of responsibility somewhere knew about this stuff. And I think to not have this work done is outrageous. This is not, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I overlook things. I don't get to things. Sometimes I misinterpret things. So I'm not perfect. But this is not an oops. This is bigger than that. And I just don't know how things like this can happen. And I got to the point where I'm afraid to get email from Dr. Bates. If it wasn't a public record, I would have auto-deleted some of them, but I can't. So, I don't know how in the hell something like this happens. I truly don't. Why not move on to the lead paint? Yes, we refer to that wing as the 22 wing. Because it was built in 1922. We all know lead paint was used back in the old days. It was perfectly acceptable. I know a little bit about lead paint because before I came to Bolton, when I worked for Clinton as the Director of Community and Economic Development for 7 years, one of the programs that my office was responsible for was, it was funded by a block grant. It was called a Housing Rehabilitation Program. We did work on people's homes who were lower moderate income. And we would do up to about 40, I think the cap at the end was about $40,000 worth of work. But when the new lead rules came in, which was probably 8-9 years ago, I would guess, the first thing you have to do when you go into a house is test for lead paint. It's the first thing. You can't touch anything else. You can't replace somebody's boiler. You can't replace their windows or anything like that. You can't fix their roof until you test for lead paint. And then if lead paint's present, I don't care if it's a 75-year-old couple living in there, you have to abate the lead paint, abate or encapsulate the lead paint before you move on to anything else. And try explaining that to a 75-year-old couple who has no grandchildren and things like that. But that's the law. So when you know you have to do that in someone's home, you know, when there's work being done here in an old wing of the school, I don't get how we don't test for lead paint. And that's not Monday morning quarterbacking. That's real. I mean, that's what, you know, people do in old homes. If you do it in an old home, you do it in an old school where you got kids and staff present. We're talking about the, give me a minute, the program that we're supporting in one of those rooms, 2 of those rooms.
The extended learning.
The extended learning, exactly. We got kids 3 to 5 years old in there. You know, I'm not saying they've been exposed to anything like that. I'm not trying to be over alarmist, but just creating the condition or allowing the condition to exist. You know, I mean, I'm looking at it in there as someone who has a very little bit of experience in it, and absolutely right. The paint is not flaking off the walls in there. It doesn't appear to be where there is lead paint. It doesn't. I mean, if you look at the ceiling, which is just flaking like you wouldn't believe, if lead paint was present there, I'd be terrified. But it's not. I mean, we were here when the person was actually testing that. I expected her to say positive, and she said negative, and I couldn't believe what I heard. But I also have to say that if you look at that stairwell, there's paint flaking all over the place. And some of it was scraped. So if there was some scraping being done, you can see the marks. So if we started scraping the ceiling and stopped and left that ceiling in that condition, I have to ask why. Why would somebody do that? Why would you not? It looks terrible. And you know, just because it's not lead paint doesn't mean it's okay for paint to be flaking onto the ground. Kid can still stuff it in their mouth. Maybe they don't get brain damage, but they can certainly get sick. So again, I am absolutely amazed at what Dr. Bates and I have learned over the past week or so. And you know, I mean, I'm outraged. I don't know about anybody else around the table. I am outraged.
I think we're all overwhelmed.
And you know, I'm not interested right now in a who shot John conversation, because the most important thing to do is to identify all the problems and fix them. And we need to work together. I mean, the town owns this building. You're our lessee, but we own the building. And you know, we're going to own the cost of some of these repairs. I don't know how much, you know, because as I said this morning to Dr. Bates, you know, Dr. Bates didn't run around and stuff lead paint into the walls, so the lead paint would have been there anyway. But if this stuff was addressed, I'm going to say when it should have been before we started painting over it, especially, the expense would have been much cheaper. So, you know, that gets into a cost issue as well as a safety issue. So I'm as incredulous. Well, I'm not as incredulous as everybody else around the table because I knew all this by this morning. But it doesn't make me any more calm.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the fix is, what are we dealing with? Move expeditiously, especially with this particular one. And is there any way for you to put this man in charge of all of these fixes? Because had you not found these things, we wouldn't know, and who knows what could have happened with any one of them. But if there's a way for you to, Dr. Clenchey, Superintendent Clenchey, to have you work directly with the towns and then report back to the school committee so that we know when the plan is to remediate all these issues, what the cost is going to be. Frankly, I hope I can speak for most of you. The most important thing is getting it done. And then we'll figure out what we do with the cost as long as we're being responsible to finding competitive bids. But I have one question for you that I need you to answer. Do you know when they were testing the lead paint, if there was any, was it only in this building, or was there any testing done in the Emerson wing where the 3rd and 4th grade classes are.
That's what we're proceeding to now, and we'll have that follow-up report tomorrow. That's what we're working on tomorrow.
So we will want to know every single classroom that's impacted.
We've actually done an extensive test throughout the entire building. So we will have a report for this entire building, including outside grounds where the playground is. She's also going to sample those areas and any egress areas where the children do walk. So.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that right now we don't know what we don't know.
We don't, right.
And just because, I have a little streak of paranoia in me, I don't know that we know everything that we don't know yet. I mean, this is what we know about now, but I worry about what else is out there that we don't know.
Right. Neil?
Third floor, how much is done of the renovation that's up there? I mean, is it just that little scraping and that, I have not seen that at all. Is it little scraping, that's it? Have we been up there working on it, painting, doing all that stuff? I mean.
The two main rooms have been done. Ceilings have been replastered.
Okay, so, thank you. So, I've got a little bit of experience with the real estate investment side of things.
Yep.
And I know that when you go into a project and you're dealing with an older building, which is exclusively what I deal with, the first thing you do is you test for lead paint. That had not been used for how long? Years, right? Has it ever been used since 1922, the third floor?
No.
I mean, it's not been used.
Oh, yeah, sure it has.
Right.
Sure it has. I vacated a couple of my staff out of there just 3 years ago.
So, okay, so now you're going in, you're opening up the project in an old building like that, and was there testing done at that point in time prior to the?
To the best of my knowledge, no, there was not.
Mark?
I'm gonna, just a quick question, is in lead abatement, is one of the strategies is encapsulation, meaning having good paint over lead paint. So is that one acceptable thing?
There are different methods to resolve and to lower the hazards, and that's what she's going to provide in the report. A versus B.
But just to be clear, painting over lead paint in and of itself is not encapsulation. There's specific means and methods that are accepted to do it. But if you just do a ceiling just like you would normally do your ceiling, that doesn't pass as encapsulating the lead paint.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since are we going to bring up the Emerson administration boiler?
Are we gonna bring it up? Honey, you might as well.
You mean the $12,000 warrant that's been sitting there for almost 2 years?
I want the history of this. I want everyone at this table to understand the history of this. Donlo, will you please?
Certainly. In 2014 or 13, it was
Should be 13.
2013, yes. 2013, we got a few asks from the district as far as funds for capital projects over here. And one of them was for boiler replacement. And before I lose the point, let me just say that I forwarded Dr. Bates a bill that went to our town accountant that I rejected. Well, never made it to the town accountant, made it to my desk, and I rejected and kicked it back to Dr. Bates's office because this invoice was dated October 2015. We received it in May as a request for payment as a charge against the article that I'm going to explain to you that was on the town meeting warrant of 2013. I don't even remember how much money it was. It was,
I believe it was either $12,000 or $18,000 because I was on advisory.
no, I'm not talking about the article. I'm talking about the
Article
bill.
was 12, the bill was
The bill was
3,000 something?
Yeah, 3,500, something like that. But the money was appropriated in 2013 for a boiler replacement project. And the invoice was submitted for maintenance. It was clearly maintenance. And I said, this is not a proper charge against these funds, and we're not paying it. So in May of 2013, $12,000 was approved for the district to do a boiler replacement program. And as we sit here now, $12,000 still sits there. It's never been touched. And it's an issue that it was a sore spot for our advisory committee over the years. This is not new. It was a sore spot for me. I'd raised it in the past. I raised it again when Dr. Bates came on board, and we had extensive discussion. There's another article too, $5,000 for
floors.
floor replacement.
Yep.
That's never been touched. And
And I remember I got pulled into that.
you did, because there were other articles that had also been either very, very low spending on it or not touched.
There were 4 articles altogether.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I was told they were all being handled or had been done.
Mhm. That's true.
And then,
So, I mean, it's true you were told that. It's not true that they were all being done. So,
Right.
The larger appropriations, there was a lot of spending done once, once it came up again. There was quite a bit of spending done, and I think for the most part, those other 2 have been wrapped up from what I can tell. But just the $12,000 for the boiler replacement,
and the $5,000 for the floor.
right, the $12,000 has never been touched, and now we appear to have a cost of, to do one of the boilers of,
24,500
right,
is one estimate. And I worked with I met with another contractor today to get another estimate, and obviously I have to work on a third.
yes,
Quick.
yeah, you would have to get the 3 quotes like
Tell
that.
me, and I'll give you names.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
What size?
This boiler,
Oh, follow up afterwards,
Yes.
but please
Yep.
do follow up. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Thank you.
so yeah, so as I said to Dr. Bates, if the district still needs the money to get work done, I mean, $12,000 isn't 24.5. But if there's some reasonable use for this money, the town's already appropriated, the town wanted the work done. If this money isn't going to be used, it should be returned to the town, because we need it. We need every dime we can lay our hands on.
And then the floor, Dom, you have to replace.
yes, I just recently found 2 pipes that are in a classroom, the lower 70s wing, that were in the floor underneath a steel plate that was welded in place. I had to tear the carpet up, remove the welds, remove the steel plate, expose the pipes, and at that point I found that the pipes had been leaking for quite an extensive period of time. So in which case there was quite a bit of moisture in that cavity in the floor. It was actually an existing ductwork line that was buried in the slab. So at which point, when I opened it up, obviously I got a lot of moisture. I got some.
What made
I
you
don't wanna
go and
speculate
open that
on-
up, though? What would trigger that?
What actually triggered it was there was a wet spot on the floor. The teacher reported that she had some objects on the floor, and they were saturated with water. And as it turned out, there was a wet spot on the floor in the middle of the room. And as it turned out, I took a hammer to the floor. I actually looked at the building plans. I took a hammer to the floor, and you could hear the hollow spot where the steel plate was. And at that point, I knew that I'd have to remove that steel plate to expose the pipes that were in that floor. And unfortunately, they're from the 70s, the original.
You do
floor.
know we have an opening for a facilities director, right?
What school is this?
That's here. I
That's
actually
here?
I have pictures on my phone. Yeah. Of
I don't know
what
about this
found.
one.
Neither do I.
So, yeah.
So what I was saying, the $5,000 for the floor remove is gonna go towards replacing
To
that
replacing the
floor.
carpet. Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll get spent.
Neil,
I gotta ask this one. So that there was a weld, so that was an access point that had been welded, or just that was what they put as a patch?
No, the weld on the steel plate, I'm not sure if that was just their methods of ensuring that the plate would not move up or pop, but essentially they did weld it in place, and they actually used a floor leveling cement over that on top of the amount of adhesive they used to glue the carpet down. So it was extensive work just to get that plate removed to expose the pipes.
Thank you. So that wet area, was that just in a cement area, or was there wood exposed to this and whatnot?
It was actually between the 2 metal seams where the water was spraying up and actually seeping into the carpet.
So were we looking at, has anything been tested for mold if it's been for an extended period of time?
That's what I was going to go with it. That's the steps I'm going to make at this point. I wanted to open it up and expose to see what we were looking at. And there are signs that it's questionable. So essentially, I closed it back up, I sealed it back up, and as of right now, that room is closed off to any other rooms.
Where is
So,
this classroom? I'm sorry. Where is
down here in the 70s wing, it is the second classroom down on the first hallway. So if you take a left, in the second classroom on the left.
Okay.
Mrs. Sig's class?
Can we, are we done with this?
Maybe this is an obvious comment, but, okay, so we just found this problem and the $5,000 for the flooring that was appropriated 3 years ago is gonna be used for that. That doesn't address the purpose for which the money was appropriated 3 years ago.
Originally, and I don't know what it was originally.
Actually, from what I understand, I spoke to one of the custodians. They started doing carpet replacements down at that wing of the building. For some reason, they actually stopped in that particular classroom where that pipe leak was. So I guess we kind of got lucky because they didn't replace that carpet in that room where I had to tear it up anyways. So for some reason, they actually stopped in that particular room.
I'm gonna go totally off script here, because I never do this, but we have a former advisory committee member, which is FinCom for Bolton, and you have your hand up, so you must have clarification on that.
I was chair of advisory when these two articles came from Bill Cleary asking for the $5,000. It was to complete, I think we had previously appropriated $12,000 a year for a couple of years to do carpeting in Floyd Sawyer, and he needed $5,000 to finish up the project. The money for the heating was, we need this, those things are about to fail. We've got to do something soon, and if you appropriate it now, I'll get it done this summer. That was the story we got.
And when was that? 2 years ago.
It was
3 years ago.
It must have been, well, if it was in the 13 budget, that would have been the spring of 12.
Well, I think
when we heard
unless
this
there
stuff.
are more issues, are there any more issues?
Okay.
No, I'm done.
Okay, so you're not leaving, and you're gonna canonize this man so he can get done what he needs to get done in tandem with the towns and the school committee. I almost feel like I need to apologize to all of us. And we're going to prioritize what needs to get done. We're going to identify what the cost is. You're going to do the right thing the way you've been doing it. Everything above board and visible so that we have access to it. And then we're going to make the decisions we need to make to move really quickly on some of this stuff that's really kind of uncomfortable and scary. I really appreciate what you've done. Thank you so much for coming. I'm glad that you were here, Neil.
I'm sorry, can I ask just one question? You have this list, and you bring this list forward.
I bring it forward to the director of facilities.
What was the response you were getting when you were bringing this list forward?
I have gotten multiple responses of, I will bring this to the town for approval. I do have the emails, but I in turn, I've always reported to the director of facilities in hopes that the funds would be appropriated for me to move forward with the
So
project.
do I have copies of all those emails? And does the superintendent have copies? Could you just make those visible to the superintendent?
Yep.
Okay.
And you
Lynn.
can give him a timeline as to when you want to hear about this list of
I
priorities.
think he's on it, and I think he's on it, and Lynn, right now, we don't know what we don't know. He's working, the only reason we know these things is because this gentleman has identified them. I'm gonna ask you folks to add a regular school committee meeting, a portion to our workshop on the 7th, because of some of this, some I didn't know about, and maybe we'll see what you got at that meeting, if we could have you come and report out at that meeting. But we'll get there, because I haven't even asked the school committee about that. By the way, I'm gonna be asking you to add another meeting. At this point, I don't think there's any more we can talk about.
Like you're giving him a deadline of the 7th, as much as you can do.
Yeah, by the 7th. Once we approve the meeting, which I haven't even done yet, but I'm going to be asking for it. Nicole, you had your head in your hands. It's nothing more, right?
Like you said, it's rather overwhelming.
It's disturbing.
Yeah, and hate to put us in this situation.
If you didn't find these things, if you didn't come forward with it, if you hadn't already started to resolve some of it, even before you came to us, I don't even want to think about where we might be. So, thank you again. Please don't stop what you're doing. Thank you very much. We don't want you to leave. Superintendent Clenchey has humongous shoes to fill. We will get this prioritized and we will get it resolved. And Dawn, to you and the other town administrators, if there's any other issues in the other schools, you have our word that our facilities folks and our administration will work directly with you to resolve this.
I appreciate that, and I believe it. And just a short involvement I've had with Dominic, he's been really, really good. He follows up very quickly, very good communication. It was very helpful today, so when we had our meeting this morning, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, you can now leave the room. No, you can stay if you'd like.
Can I leave the room?
No, you can't leave the room.
Go back to your vacation.
All right, I think we need to move on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks so much, Dom. The next item is the CPAC year-end report, and our CPAC chair is going to come and speak to us at the next meeting. She's not prepared, so we're giving her a bye. NESDEC enrollment study, Bob Sikansky.
Well, I can't say I'm going to be delivering the same level of drama that you've
Good.
had. My time that's been appropriated here is very short, so as you recall, you approved the purchase of an enrollment study from NESDEC earlier this year. They came back with a very thorough report. The first draft is over 100 pages long, substantiating, putting in a lot of detail, explaining a lot of how they got their numbers. The Space Needs Task Force has reviewed that. We've gone back to NESDEC with some requests for a little clarification, perhaps put in a couple additional charts there. More to help people understand what's in there, but at our meeting there really was no disagreement with any of the numbers or any of the conclusions that were reported in the forecast. So I'm going to just distill the 107 pages of that report down to a few slides tonight, which you have in your packet. So the highlights of that report is that for the past couple of years, the elementary school populations district-wide have been declining, and that decline will continue for a few more years, and then it's going to start to grow. Now, the time frame of the forecast is the current year plus out through school year 2025-26. So it's a 10-year forecast. So elementary school populations overall will decline. It will not be the same level of declining in each town. We have separate forecasts for each individual school. During this 10-year period, though, the high school population declines at a fairly regular rate. There's no sudden drop-off, but there is a decline in the school population. Eventually, the high school population will start to grow again, but that is out beyond the 10 years forecast in this study. So in other words, as we go through the charts, you'll see that in years 6, 7, 8, and 9, the various elementary schools start having their populations recover, but it's out beyond 10 years when those recovery populations enter into the high school. Okay? So first slide is Lancaster. You can see it's been declining. There are separate lines for Mary Rowlandson and Luther Burbank. Do you have colors?
Yep.
Okay, so you can see which ones are which. Both of them decline, and in Lancaster, by the year 2021, the elementary school populations overall kind of level out. They fluctuate a little bit, but there's no trend up or down. So there's a slight decline between now and 2020, and then it levels out. In Stowe, I think people in Stowe are very familiar with the big decline in blip that's on the left-hand side of the center school, because that's doesn't reflect, the state no longer has the population information on the Pompacitic school available. So that, even though it's the same grades as the center school, it's not recovered there. But you see there, for the center school, the population decline goes on for another couple of years, stays level for a couple of years, and then starts to increase steadily in the year 2021. The Hale Middle School really has that same decline and recovery shifted over to the right 3 or 4 years. So you don't see a recovery in the middle school until the year 2023. Any questions about those? Everybody following what I said? For Florence Sawyer?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Good. Florence Sawyer, we're going to have a steady decline. It's almost a straight line decline until the year 2018 to 2019, and then we've got a pretty steady increase in students there. But once again, even that increase will not get to the high school until beyond the 10-year forecast. The basic reasons behind this declines is the past 7 years in the 3 towns, there's a dramatic drop. There's a 30% drop in the birth rate compared to the 7 years before that. The housing market has been moribund. Not much has happened. The birth rates are predicted to start increasing again. Apparently, the millennials that haven't felt like doing anything will suddenly get the urge in the next couple of years, and populations will start increasing again. What this does with the high school population is that it declines over the next 10 years and doesn't ever really recover. Again, the recoveries that we're going to see in the elementary schools don't reach the high school within the space of this forecast. This is projecting a change between about 1,050, 1,080, down to about 830, 840 students. Okay? Assuming that nothing else dramatic changes in this. Now, I think this brings us to the, basically, from my point of view, a justification for asking for this enrollment study. Because when we started our study, and even as we sit here today, the high school is literally overcrowded. There are more students in there than there are classroom seats for them. And if we hadn't gone through this study, I think that's what we would have been preoccupied with, and probably, at least personally, and maybe I'm speaking for others, I would have been concerned about how it was going to get worse in the next few years. What this study does, and it's a very conservative study, is say that overcrowding is not going to go away magically, but it will decline. And by the way, I want to point out that the numbers that you see in these charts do not include school choice students. All right? The numbers that are forecast and the numbers that are used for historical have had school choice students taken out of them. So they may not be numbers you're familiar with, but that's why. One of the things we went back and asked them for is some of the same historical information with the school choice students included. All right. We are also assuming that the current policy of the school committee stands for the next 10 years, which is that there's not going to be any new school choice students coming in. So the overcrowding that is at the high school today is going to be diminishing over the next couple of years. What I'd like to point out is that in our final report of the space needs group, that only 6 of the 42 pages in that report address space issues due to overcrowding. The other issues that remain in that report, the other 36 pages, are full of items that need attention regardless of what the school population is. By way of illustrating this, if you were to build a new high school, just as a thought experiment, if you were to build a new high school with the same population and the same curriculum that you have in place now, that school would have a footprint that would be 33% greater than it is. Because the standards of how each classroom, how big each classroom would be, have changed so much. What facilities should be inside each classroom has changed so much. And we looked at this, there would be no difference between the ratio, the proportion of classroom to administrative space. So it's not like a whole bunch of additional space is going to be dedicated to non-teaching purposes. The percentages would remain the same, but overall the footprint of the school would be 33% larger. Even if the population goes down to 850 or something like that, you're still looking, if you were going to build a new school, at a footprint that's 20% bigger than what you have now. So the high school, it's safe. There's nothing tragically wrong with it right now, structurally, or in terms of what it can deliver for curriculum, but it's just very different than the kind of educational processes that are going on. The last time I was here, I presented a list of schools that have regional school or nearby schools that have added to or built new facilities since the renovation here. So de-emphasizing the overcrowding doesn't mean we still don't have a lot to do. Particularly in the science labs would be the #1 place to start. The science labs, the other areas that still need attention, irrespective of whether or not the high school is overcrowded, are special education, wellness and sports, student support, which is guidance, primarily nursing, administration, and there's a bunch of mechanical issues, which we know about. And that we've
Stop.
and we've talked about in the past, so I don't want to make it sound like this is a new stuff, but there are some mechanical issues in the school that need to be addressed. If you have any other questions at this point, I'd like
Does everybody need a break before we ask questions? Thank you for all of the work that you've done on this. I'm going to be contacting you because we committed to, when we look at, are we going to move forward with an SOI for this coming year, making sure that everyone, including us first, and then go out to the community and speak with people. And I think that you kind of encapsulated the whole discussion that we need to have. So,
So you can't leave.
pardon?
Huh?
You can't leave.
You can't move, but you can leave. You just can't move. Does anyone have questions for Bob? Does everyone?
No, I think it was a good presentation.
It was excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Bob.
you.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
Alrighty. Can we do a couple of quick things before we go into the next chunky pieces? It'll take 2 seconds. I'd like to, if it's okay with everyone here, I'd like to ask you if I'd like to get this done so I can just get this off my mind. We have a July 7th collective bargaining workshop with the MASC, and I think almost all of us, or all of us, are going to be there, including, at the time, Superintendent Clenchy. I think, given some of the things that we've heard tonight, in addition to a couple of the straggling items that we have, we need to add a 1-hour regular school committee meeting in front of that July 7th workshop. I know that you have all done incredible work over the year. You've given so much time and really appreciate it, but I think we need to make sure that we understand what's happening with the issues we just heard in the facilities across the district. And there's a couple of other items we're going to have to approve, some new hires, thank goodness. But I'd like for you folks to approve an additional 1-hour regular school committee meeting in front of that workshop. Any thoughts?
I can do it.
Please.
Can you make a motion?
Want me to make a motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. I move that we have a 1-hour meeting of the school committee from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 7th.
And second? Thank you, Susan. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Thank you, it's unanimous. Okay. And then one last thing, Mr. Lowe, our municipal member that sits on the collective bargaining committee with the three school committee members who are currently identified on that, has been selected. It is Don Lowe, the town administrator from
Bolton.
the town of Bolton. Thank you. That's the town I live in, right? I'm processing right now. And that was a decision that was made amongst the three town administrators. Mr. Lowe will also be sitting at the school committee table when we get to executive sessions, including the vote for the collective bargaining agreements. So thank you again, because you also sat on the screening committee for the superintendent search. Appreciate your help with that. So I just want to let all of you know that it's not a vote on the school committee.
Is he coming July 7th?
Are you coming on July 7th?
Apparently I am, yes.
Thank you.
No, I am. I always planned on attending the workshop, and now I guess I get to arrive an hour early too.
Yes, if you'd like to watch the meeting.
Well, I think I may.
I think you probably need to. Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, now we can go back to the regularly scheduled programming, which is food service report.
Food service and extended learning.
Okay, so school committee members, this discussion is a report out. We may have questions. We're not doing a forensics exercise here. Okay?
You want us both to go up food service and extended learning, or you want one at a
It's
time?
up to you.
Why don't you come on up, that way you can, you'll save from people.
Pardon?
What's the purpose?
What's the purpose of this?
It's a report out.
End of the year report was asked.
Oh, you gave love you.
In some respect, yes, financials, and answer some questions that had been asked.
By the school committee.
And one of the things I said, and if I were here, I really believe that these programs should be sent to you at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year.
So why don't you folks introduce yourselves so everyone knows who's speaking?
Sure. I'm Tom Hull. I'm the Director of Food and Nutrition here at Neshoba Regional.
Yeah, Maroney, I am the interim business manager. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Well, day after
Friday.
tomorrow. Friday.
Yeah.
I'm Laura Dwyer. I'm the Extended Learning Enrichment District Curriculum Assessment Coordinator.
That's a title. Thanks. Thank you all for coming. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to you, Dr. Bates.
We're going to start with food service. So,
Well, I guess, why don't can we start with the questions, and that may
Right,
lead
right.
to the information that you're looking for.
So you're opening this up to questions?
well,
Well,
Tom Bigden had been, some questions had been posed to him.
Oh, okay, so it's not like a free-for-all?
No.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Now, the questions were, after our meeting with the subcommittee, were regards to the year-end school lunch account balances. So I have the positive and the negative balances here. So I get a second, here we go. And as of
Go ahead.
last Friday, the negative student balances were $3,500. The student prepaids were $56,705.79. And staff negative balances were $297.10.
And on the student, Tom, if I could just say, prior to when we had a month or so before the close of school, how much money was owed in the account?
About $10,000.
And so you got it down to?
$3,500.
Right.
So did you go out and solicit?
Myself and my managers, and we really put a lot of effort in to make sure we got this to where it needs. Well, obviously, we would love to have seen it lower, but we've run out of time now.
So does
Right.
this just go away, or does this Does the bill stay with the student?
Historically, what has done with this part?
Well, historically, I've run the report that determines who has a negative balance, and if it would just sit there.
It followed them.
Followed them till they graduated, but once they graduated,
There was no cost recovery on the program.
right. If they didn't collect it at the high school before they graduated, then
Then we owned the loss.
right.
Neil?
Can I put some context to the question? So the reason that this question was asked was because we were made aware of other school districts which have lost quite literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in uncollected debt through that process of the students going up through the years they graduate, and then it's uncollectible debt. So that was something that we were looking for because there was no report out for that. And what we originally got was something that said that the total outstanding balances that have followed the students through was at roughly about $12,000. And it could not be broken out by year. So that's why we had requested that we get something by year before the books turn over or whatnot, so we can isolate what's taking place on an annual basis. And then we can look at perhaps alternative resources for, right now, Power School, you prepay and then the balance runs empty and it can become uncollectible. So we're looking at things like maybe automatic debit or credit cards or whatnot that would be right at point of purchase. It would work with the sale, and we need to know whether that would be justified in the losses that we're receiving.
At one point, parents received automatic updates when their accounts got to $10.
Yeah.
But with the latest update in Power School, now they need to go in and sign up for that. And even though they've been made aware of this with instructions sent out, to get parents to do that isn't always an option. Or they'll call and say, oh, I didn't know I needed to do that. So we've worked really hard to get this back out.
Is there any way for you to do an enterprise-wide check the box so that automatically happens?
That's how it used to be.
I know, because I got them.
Now I know.
I got them a lot.
That's no longer an option. There was some type of glitch with Power School 2 years ago, where for some reason it sent parent notices of their children's negative balances that were 2 and 3 years old. And since I think their fix was, well, now they need to sign up for it, and we can. That wasn't a district thing. That was a Power School thing.
How do we?
So my interpretation on this, though, was when there's a negative loss, you can't have an account negative. It has to be pulled out of the general fund and reimbursed. So it becomes, we're subsidizing unpaid.
So how do we resolve this?
You can't use federal funds to pay off bad debt. It's a law.
So it comes out of our pockets, the taxpayer pockets.
So what would need to happen is once that debt is cleared, we keep track of it, and then we'd need to go after it through.
But how much? But I get that, Tom. But how much? If you take your hourly rate, you take your salary and your hourly rate and your manager's hourly rate, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's like we're chasing loss with a loss. I'm not minimizing your value. I'm actually elevating your value.
No, I agree. Thank you.
But there's got to be a way for us to have a. Do you have any suggestions? Do you know how other school districts do it?
It's a common dilemma in most districts. Many districts have much larger negative balances.
They probably have more kids too, though.
Well, no. Districts our size. Superintendent Clenchy and I are already looking at new software to help expedite this in different ways, where the cash deposits will be more real time as opposed to the 3-day delay we have now.
And the additional fee, which is a pain in the neck for every parent.
Well, there may be a fee, and anytime you have somebody else doing that for you, there'll be an additional fee because that's how they make their money. I think 25 cents on a transaction is pretty low, but I believe on credit cards it may be some type of sliding scale where the one we're looking at would be a fixed rate.
Are we actually saving money doing this automated prepaid thing? I mean, we're going back to just pay for your lunch on the day that you pay for your lunch.
But then you have people handling cash, and then we have issues with
This is much
bonding.
cleaner, not physically cleaner, but from a financial standpoint.
But are we losing money?
We currently have a negative balance of
But do we have-
$3,500.
Which
But
we
did
would
we
have to
have
pay
these-
for.
But did we have these numbers when we had a person?
What do you mean a person?
When the person was
Of
collecting
course.
the physical money, did you have these losses?
Anybody that's pulling an account, anybody that had credit would, if they're not paying their credit, run the negative balance.
But we didn't
That's
have
what's
credit. You paid the
No,
day
but
you bought.
students owed money. And this was way before me, but students, Johnny doesn't have lunch today. And you say, oh, sorry, Johnny, you don't have money.
So you give them a cheese sandwich and
Okay.
That wasn't what was happening in the past. We've come
So-
to an agreement
Neil.
more recently.
converse-
Because there's no protocol, there's no anything signed by anybody as to what should happen in the event somebody doesn't have money to pay for their lunch.
there's no
So
protocol?
we need to come up with
That's one of the recommendations from the municipal report and what we've talked about, and setting up, and there's several recommendations of formulating a subcommittee, to formulate a new policy that will get communicated throughout the district.
Right, we need to set a policy that we can put on the website, and that way we have a leg to stand on.
So
All right,
we have
so-
a yin and yang to this.
I know, well, let's let Tom finish his discussion. We've got a few other people.
It's based on what Tom just said, though, so that $56,709 is money that, some of it for the graduating seniors, if they still have positive balances, we don't necessarily send out voluntarily information saying you have a positive balance, here's a check. Parents need to contact the school administration and ask for a check, otherwise that money rolls into
What?
general fund, I think, or
It just
something.
stays in the revolving
Stays in
fund.
the
Stays in the revolving fund.
So it just grows, and we have people's money sitting in there that we can't access. Is that right? Am I oversimplifying?
No, that's pretty
That
much.
we shouldn't be accessing, because it doesn't belong to us.
How come?
So.
I mean, sometimes it's $1.75.
Sometimes it's 79 cents. But to date, all of the seniors have been notified, and
Why can't we just automatically cut checks and send them out to their home address? Is that?
because that's not how it was handled in the past.
Also,
I'm not
doesn't
saying
it
it couldn't be done.
It's
79
not.
cents?
But-
Chances
but-
are they
Anything
won't
under
cash the
$1
check.
goes to
Legally,
payable.
but legally, I know there are stipulations around those types of accounts, especially when it's student money.
And I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That we can't do anything with that 79 cents. But the cost that it takes for us to mail them out, to look up and then mail them out the 79 cents just might.
I know, but I hear what you're saying, but my concern is more on the legal side of it, not the cost side of it. Like if,
Senior balances right now, to
Uh-huh.
date, are under $300, and all parents have been notified.
okay. All right, I don't want to go down that path anymore because it can't solve for it, but why don't you finish what you have to say, because we need to hear what you have to say. Is there more?
Yes, there is.
I thought there might be.
So, I guess the question came out, is there two sets of books? And I don't want to say that there are two sets of books. There are reports that I send out to the state and USDA based on our sales numbers and the cost of our goods that we sold. Now, my sales numbers have come right from Power School, and it's based on how many student lunches, how many a la carte sales, how many adult lunches, how many adult a la carte sales, how many milk sales, those kinds of things. And then on a monthly basis, we get the amount of the cost of the goods that we use to produce the meals and labor and all of that, and that is deducted from the cost or the gross income of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what gets sent to the state. And it gets sent quarterly. It includes all of our capital asset expenditures. And we are currently just waiting for the rest of the numbers to come in to finish up June.
And how does the year look?
As of the end of May, now this isn't in the balance sheet, which would include the prepaids as a liability, but once they become a revenue, once it's sold.
Mm-hmm.
So if in
so
essence,
prepaid has been sold. Or no, you mean once you, because it's being held in an account.
right? It's
Got it.
like-
Keep
so
going,
once
sorry.
the meal is sold,
Right.
then it's an asset,
Yeah.
not a liability.
Yeah.
But my numbers show with over $50,000 in capital expenses or improvements made to our cafeterias at the end of May, a loss of $7,391 or $7,400. Now, we also had a spending plan. Now, see, you're shaking your head, but you're not understanding. We put $50,000 into our program. New stoves, new equipment, new better serving lines, not lines, but better items to better serve our students, whether it's serving slides and things like that. So we can only have approximately 3 months of operating costs in our revolving account, which we've had well over that. And again, that was because that's how we did things back then. So we reinvested funds to bring our program up to date and hopefully recoup some of the losses we've seen because of the changes that were made at the high school and things like that.
Do you have revenue targets by month? So I'm shaking my head because I get where you're at and I get what sounds like things were not managed the way you would have liked to have seen the way you're going to be able to manage them going forward. But revenue targets might not be a bad idea. You can be conservative at the beginning, but at least that way you can
No, I
adjust
agree.
mid-year. But okay, so go ahead.
That's all I have.
And then Neil.
So, just two things. We should clarify that the year-to-date that's on the list that's here is actually just April and May combined.
No, that's not
Right.
true.
That's not true, the numbers?
The number.
April
Well,
and May?
these sheets were sent in the past.
Okay,
Okay, so if you need copies of them, I can send them to you.
okay.
But no, the 7,391 is as of the end of May, which you don't.
Am I looking at the same, I'm looking at the profit loss statements, 2015-16 period ended June 16.
What you would need to do is start in July, and then every quarter. Now, these were sent in the past. I don't know if you still have them, or if you don't have them, I can resend them.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where we were
Yep.
at the end of the first quarter.
Okay. And so the business, the report, the other report that we've been going off of, that we got from the business office, that will absolutely match and dovetail what we're looking at
No, it's
here.
never gonna match and dovetail.
Okay, that's all that's the clarification.
And it doesn't
I
because.
I understand why,
Okay.
Tom. I totally, and I'm not, it's not with you. I don't have any
Yeah, yeah,
exception
no.
with what you're doing at all.
Please, I understand.
But there's a
Thank you.
difference in the reporting, and there's numbers that aren't in what your numbers are here, so it doesn't necessarily reflect the true state of, like, the food service as a business goes. And that's all I'm saying. That's gonna be reflected through the office report that we have been receiving. That's the difference. And the only other thing is the capital expenses that we had made. The town is here, so they should hear a plus on that, because I don't know if this is the way it works, but we had a couple ovens, both were $13,000. Both were $13,000, and our cutoff for capital expense is $10,000. So that's something that we probably should have come to the towns for.
The ovens would be in the high school, right? Or-
Right, we own the high
No,
school.
one is in the high school, one is in Lancaster.
So no, we're not
So one is in
responsible.
one is in Lancaster.
Okay.
So that would, am I correct on that? I don't even know if I'm correct on that.
I don't
But
know,
that should
I
be
don't know where we're
something-
going
But-
with this.
I'm not sure either, but those were included in the spending plan, that, or the spend down plan through the Department of Education.
Told them to spend down their money.
Right. And any capital expense that's over $10,000 according to the district agreement would be going off
The
to the
leases.
town, but
The leased property, not the high school.
we didn't have visibility is what I'm saying as far as the school district goes in order to be able to say, yeah,
Did
let's
the
absorb
district
that.
assume the cost of a $13,000 expenditure
Yes.
that the town?
The revolving account.
No one is pointing a finger at you. Understand
No.
that. We're
No.
trying to get a understanding of what the heck's going on.
But this is what
Please
contributes to the
understand
lost
that.
numbers that are on there. That's what we're trying, okay, so
Yes,
it's for
yes.
clarification purposes, but there's a story that goes
Correct.
with that.
Okay.
Now, but with that said, we did have to spend down part of our revolving account.
Totally get it.
Or reinvest
Totally
in
get
the
it. I'm,
program.
let me give you, I don't want to use our town's name. I'm going to say apples, oranges, and bananas. Okay?
Okay,
I'm the
yes.
town of apples. And then there's a town of oranges and bananas. And all three of us have the same agreement with this one entity.
Mhm.
But apples gets $1,300 taking, or $13,000 taken care of that bananas and oranges don't have to worry about. How do you think those two fruits are going to fail?
Well, if there are funds though within the revolving account, and there are things that are needed in bananas and apples.
Oranges and bananas.
Oranges and bananas, and we have the funds to be able to do that.
Tom, it's not,
I'm
you don't
not
even,
sure.
this part doesn't even, God bless you, just do like la 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 right now.
Okay.
Do you folks understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think I do
District
also.
agreement, yeah.
Okay.
I do understand what you're saying, but I do also understand that we are a regional district and we are feeding into the high school. And if there are certain things that need to
No, that one is the high school is ours, Lynn.
No, I
Nicole.
know, but I'm saying that those three towns are feeding into our high school.
Yep.
And at some point, nothing can be fully equitable, or the parity
Mhm.
cannot be fully there. But if bananas needs a oven and oranges and apples don't,
And then at some point.
no, I understand.
Okay.
Eventually, bananas is going to get an oven.
Not necessarily,
Not
and so the point being, according to the district agreement, and I'm not talking for
The
you guys.
leases.
According to the district agreement, the conversation should have come to us to
I-
make that decision as to how that money's gonna be spent.
And
And
if
I
that's
think
what
common
we-
sense would
if
prevail
that
and we'd
is
say,
what we are debating
sure.
right now, I think we can all agree on that. If that is what we
There's
are.
not a debate. It's
If
just,
that is what we are
it's just a
discussing right
clarification,
now,
right?
Okay.
then
Yep.
we can all
Perfect.
agree on that.
Yep, perfect.
That wasn't my point. My point was,
I get it.
okay. Lynn,
Since you're talking about ovens, it recurred to me, Hale, maybe it was Center, are we still providing lunches to some other school in
oh
Marlboro?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Not
are-
Marlboro, Hudson.
It's Hudson?
Yes.
Which, great deal for them. But I was just wondering, because now there's the wear and tear on, because we don't charge them for anything except for the individual meals.
It's
It's our
literally
cost.
15 meals.
It's 15 meals.
Yeah.
All right, so but good point, because I didn't know it was only 15. Tom, do you have more? Because I'm sorry, we
No.
just kind of
No.
went all over the place
But I
with
would,
that.
please know that anytime you have any questions, that I would happily answer anything.
I think you need
And
to
try to make
understand,
this less convoluted for anybody.
and I think you need to understand, we have not had
I do
visibility into some of the areas that we are now.
Well, as Tom has said, when he came before you, when I first came, he had never come before the school committee before.
So we're changing that. Yeah.
So, the two, whatever you
Right.
want to call it, the whole thing that we're talking about is creating some sort of report that will come out to us. and making sense out of this.
Absolutely.
And so when we talk about two different things, I understand that yours, there's cash in, there's cash out, there's point of sale, there's all this. And so what we need to do through the finance subcommittee is we need to discuss how that's all going to look when that gets reported out. Because you can give, what my point is, and it's not because you're doing something wrong or incorrect, is that your numbers will differ from what Pat has for numbers.
Pat,
And
what
we
do you
need to
have for
reconcile
numbers?
all that when we get a report out.
I
That's all.
have the cash in, cash out numbers, basically. What I do have that maybe he doesn't have, things that may be paid in the previous, are expenditures from the previous year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just happens to be that's the way these reports are run. I don't have the last payroll of the year.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? These are the kinds of reports that I run. They're very detailed, right out of our payroll system, right out of our accounts payable.
Okay.
And that's where I get my cost of goods, cost of services, is from that report.
Okay.
And going forward, again, one of the recommendations is that they will now start meeting frequently.
What's frequently
And
mean?
more, because
Who's meeting? Who's meeting?
Pat and
Oh,
Tom.
myself.
Respectfully, just a suggestion, because I'd be asking for it monthly.
Yeah,
Right.
at least.
Probably more often than that,
At
Okay.
least. But because we share an office, we never really officially met. You know, we'd talk 10 minutes or 5 minutes here, but I think we need to have a more formal meeting to be able
With
to.
agendas and,
Right.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Right,
you.
and that's,
Thank you.
those are the things.
Because
we
those are the
discuss.
things that we're gonna be looking for when we have Pat come in front of us on a monthly basis or more frequently. Because we're gonna ask her to run down the list and tell us where everything stands so we know where we are rather than waiting until once, twice. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Tom? Nope. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and please, anytime.
Chicken salad. Thanks for not bringing. Thanks for not bringing my chicken salad.
But
Okay.
there'll be plenty in the future.
All right. And Dr. Bates had a great suggestion. I think we should probably all invite you to come with us. That we need to go to the schools, and we need to have lunch.
Yeah, that invitation is always an open invitation.
And we'll come without
Whether
letting you know
can-
so that we can really have the
Perfect.
experience, which would be
Perfect.
great because I want the chicken salad. How
And-
often do you have it?
It depends on the season.
Okay, well you know when I'm coming then.
Look at the calendar.
I will.
But you'll see many new things because we are trying some new things at the high school and 2 of our middle schools to really hopefully increase participation and just to keep things new. And that's a yearly adventure because you need to keep things new to keep our students buying.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you
so
all.
much.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, extended learning and enrichment. I assume, Pat, you're just gonna stay there? This is, you're not gonna take us through the presentation, right?
No.
You're assuming that we've already read it. And you're gonna give
the
us
5
highlights.
slides that Dr. Bates suggested I do.
Excellent.
Okay. Okay, so I wasn't sure how you wanted me to start. I could start off with your questions. I can start off with a brief overview. I can just.
Do the overview first.
Okay, so I don't think anybody really knows me until recently, because I haven't presented to the board ever.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. I run the after-school programs, and I do district enrichment, and I also work in the teaching and learning department and do PD, and I contribute to that as far as the enrichment and extended advanced learning programs. The extended learning program, I think I created sort of an analogy for it. I am like the principal of the extended learning program. I have over 300 students, 315 right now, 340 with all the ones that come in for enrichment, 400 if you include the district ones. They have the same responsibilities as the principal does. I handle the scheduling, my staff of 47, their PD, the students' activities, except I also handle all the billing for their tuitions. I also handle all the scheduling and billing for their extended enrichment activities. And
So you're a self-contained
I'm
operation.
I'm in.
Which now I understand why thank you for explaining that. Now I understand why the regulations state that any monies in has to be spent just for that program. Okay, keep going. Just want to make sure everybody else got that too.
Okay, so I am responsible for all the budgeting, ordering all the supplies, all the POs for the program. In addition to that, I bring in the outsourced activities for that. I handle all the discipline, the big issues. I also do all the, I coordinate with the special ed department for 504 plans, behavior plans, and IEPs to make sure that they're carried over to our students. And I had started branching into district enrichment. I was on a 5-year plan when I came. My first year was to sort of observe and gradually realign the program so it involved enrichment programs. It didn't involve any enrichment. Its past history was it was around like a daycare. It was a small program, a family daycare, and sort of babysitting, and that was fine. But the program has since evolved. My first year, I observed, and I started introducing enrichment activities, having my staff do them, outsource some, and then that grew into the second year. Now we have over 15 enrichment activities that I coordinate. That's just within the program, and my staff also training them to do enrichment activities, modeling that for them, bringing in some educators into the program, sort of transitioning their type of thinking so it becomes an extended learning program, because it is a great opportunity to do that, extended learning. This year was my first year really with district enrichment. What I did was I piloted the programs in extended learning, then I pushed them out to the district, and I actually had a little budget this year that I did some district. I had an author come in, and he went to all the schools, even the high school. So that was very exciting. And now my 4-year idea was to start doing a little bit more advanced learning, bring it into my program, and then my 5th year was sort of to kind of culminate it all and bring it together. The program has expanded. I'm pretty fast, and I'm pretty good at expanding programs, but the program has expanded a little bit faster than even I anticipated because the numbers have tripled, and the staff has, it's quite sizable, and the amount of budgeting I do has increased largely, and the only thing that hasn't changed is I'm the only person still. So
if you're asking us for a head count, honey, ain't gonna happen. But right now it's not. But we don't know what's gonna happen next year.
So it has a great potential to grow even bigger. I'd like to bring in some more. I'd like to bring in some more community programs, which I've already. Some more as I would like to do less outsourcing and more insourcing with my staff now that they've had modeling. Bring in some programs like fishing program and a sort of a check out a bike program. We have some bikes and they can check them out, and some things like that. And I guess that's all it is in a nutshell.
That's good. So
I brought some my brochure and my card too for everyone.
Terrific. You can leave those with us.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the financial situation of the program.
Right now we have a little over $2,000 that's outstanding. $1,000 that is attributed to the music program, which was added to the program. That's a district it's to be a district program. Right now the music program is it's basically Hale students, and that was a new program this year. And I have a good amount of the money is outstanding from the music program.
What does that mean?
That means that the students who took the music programs from the lessons from the Hale program, they're owed some money.
They
How
owe
much?
money, or they owe you money?
They owe me money.
How
The
much?
vendors have been played, but they owe. We were about $1,000 in that.
So, how does that? Again, these are questions. Not you gotta get it. This is not a criticism of anybody. It's just the style. You guys gotta get used to it. But, how do they get to continue to take the lessons if?
It's a new program.
Oh.
It's piloting this year,
Okay.
and we're still working out the kinks. The musicians, the vendors are paid, and I've tried everything to get these bills to these people, and it's just a learning curve of redesigning the program. And what we like to do, ideally, as we've just discussed, is get them on a schedule. Maybe they pay every 3 months up front for the lessons.
Yeah. See, because again, I'm doing apples, oranges, and bananas, and if I'm a parent that's paying my way, and this is not a criticism on you, but if I'm a parent that's paying my way and the guy next to me is not, we have programs at the district to help those who can't, and that certainly is, you know, something we want to do, but you got to qualify for those programs. It's not fair for a program to be put in place. Kathy?
So I don't understand about the music lessons. So a student comes for his trumpet lesson and he gives the instructor a check for, let's say
No,
$10.
he's not.
He's not.
He's not.
How is the money
He should be.
collected? How is the money collected?
They're invoicing us monthly for the
Who is
lessons.
invoicing
The
you?
instructors.
And the instructor, now are they flush? Are they getting paid? Or are they owed $1,000 cumulatively?
No, they're getting paid.
So I don't understand where the leftover $1,000 that you're in the hole is from.
Because the kids aren't paying.
We
Oh,
invoice
so
the
you're paying
parents.
them, and
She's
Supposed to be- supposed to be a
I see
self-sustaining
problem.
program?
Yes, I
So-
see, okay, yeah.
How much did you say that the whole program was short?
It's short a little bit over 2,000, but it's not really because I have a few of those accounts that will be paid. There was only like $50 carried over last year. My people I don't worry about that because I know I see them picking away at it. The music program, I don't know those people. I don't have a connection with them either. Like my parents, I see all the time. I can personally give them their invoice. I can I can keep on it a little bit more. But the music program, it's hard for me to manage because I don't see the students. I don't know the instructors. I'm not there.
Why isn't the program managed at the location?
She has site coordinators.
Oh, you do.
What for which program? The music program?
Oh,
No, not that.
that's a separate entity.
Yeah.
Oh, you brought them in from outside.
No, the music program was a program that existed at Hale that they wanted to George wanted to umbrella under extended learning, under enrichment, because the thought was to eventually offer music lessons to all the students. So it would be a district program to be able to offer music lessons to anyone. But right now, it's only students at Hale.
So I have a question about this, and I'm going to keep it brief because I have a feeling I could go down a really dark tunnel here. The Hale School has music lessons after school. Is that what I heard?
Yes, they do, and like Laura was saying, prior it was a Stowe Friends of Music sponsored program.
Yeah, but now it's part of.
Apparently now it's part of the extended day program.
But aside from the Friends of Music, I mean, they also had, if you wanted to take guitar lessons, you went and you paid the guy when you showed up.
Which is, you
Right,
can't do that in a public school.
You shouldn't do that.
Exactly, but that's what they were doing.
Until when?
Recently.
September.
Until,
This year.
Really?
right,
Mhm.
and it stopped.
Yes.
And so we didn't want to discontinue a program
Right,
that's
we
pretty
didn't wanna-
successful, so we were trying to think of a way. So we figured.
Look at it as a vendor using your public school.
I am. So here's my question. Okay, now maybe I'm not getting this. Florence Sawyer has a music program, but our students don't pay to take lessons.
Well,
Not
are
after
they,
school.
right. This is
After
a
school.
after
This is
school, these are like,
after school.
sort of
This is
like
band.
private lessons.
Do they? Does the Hale Middle School have lessons during the day?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's where the
Sort of
disconnect
like
was. I
an
thought.
This is an
alternative
after-school
private.
program.
Oh, this is in addition to
Right,
the
that they might
curriculum.
want to go on, or they might want to take a
Okay.
different lesson.
All right.
And the instructors are great, and the kids love it, and it's a great idea to expand it and be able to eventually offer it. It's just, I don't know if the place for it is in with the extended learning stuff.
It doesn't sound like it, but
It
yeah,
doesn't.
but nice effort.
I don't want it there.
You don't want it. Okay.
I don't want it
She
there.
doesn't want the program. Find someone else.
I don't want. I would like it to be separate, a separate entity. I'd like my extended learning tuitions to have one place and that program to have another place.
Well, then you could really build it, but yeah, go ahead, Neil.
So Laura has a profitable, I mean, it is profitable to the district. It's a cash cow for the district as far as
$84,000?
the program goes. It's not $84,000. That's what the program's in debt. We are losing $84,000 in the program because we are taking $215,000 of the program and we're using that as revenue for the general fund. Am I correct
You
on that?
can't do that, though.
It's not an offset, it's listed as a revenue, I know, on the budget.
Yeah, it is.
And so we are pulling out of this exclusive program and using it as revenue, and then if it is an offset or whatever, I'm not sure, but the point being, we are making this program upside down, and it's losing $84,000 a year because we're pulling money out of it. And until we requested this information, we had zero visibility that there was a loss or what was going out of the program. And each year, since in the last 4 years, it started at 135, I'm sorry,
101?
yeah, 105 to 165, to
165 again.
$215,000. It's grown the amount that we pulled out every year, over, you know, that
When I
period of
asked the
time.
question about why that was revenue source, it was about using the utilities and paying custodians and sort of overhead costs.
Which would be an offset.
That
if-
would be an
if-
offset.
Right, right, but that's what the answer that I was given, but we've had, if cost recovery programs should not be in the red. Isn't that right? They should be even Steven.
And it shouldn't be a revenue account. It shouldn't be a revenue source either, with the way that
So
that's-
this just reinforces, Neil, the thing that
Yeah.
you and I
So
talked about, which
that's-
everyone will hear about.
So that's the big concern, is because in reality, we're not getting $215,000 that's coming in. We have to subtract $84,000 out of that, and that's the real revenue that's coming into the district, right? So it's 215 minus 84 because you need a break even on that, right? The $84,000 though gets pulled out of the reserve account that has been built up, and we aren't necessarily aware that that 84,000 is being pulled out of the reserve account because we haven't had any report outs on this.
So we're taking 215,000 out of your.
Apparently.
Okay, so
Apparently.
it appears.
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't know, I'm going on what I'm hearing. We're taking, apparently, $250,000 out of the money that your program makes, but then, which is causing a shortfall of $84,000, which now the general fund is making up the difference.
No, it's not.
No.
How, help
It's
me.
coming out of reserves, so there are reserve funds that are being held by extended day. And we have a considerable amount of reserve funds, but what ends up happening is it becomes basically an unreported loss, and it's not truly $215,000 income generator for the district, which it can't be to begin with, but it's 215 minus the 84,000. That 84,000 is in essence being made up through the reserves, but it's an unsustainable situation.
Right, if we
that
continue to.
If that continues, going to
rip
eat up the
money out of your
reserves.
program. And if the program's that
It's a
successful,
little convoluted, but
what do you have in reserves right now?
What do I have in reserves?
Yeah.
Pat, what's the balance in the revolving fund at the end of the year?
I don't.
it's in the
I only know
300
what
section.
I have.
360 or something like that.
What is it?
I have,
360.
around, yeah, it's estimated at that. I don't have that figure.
So
right
when
here in
people
front of
hear
me.
those numbers, $360,000 sitting in reserves, why can't you just use it to, like, we need to understand, Pat, what that means. Because 360,000 doesn't mean it's just sitting in an account for us to use in different places in the budget.
Right, and it's easy for people to think that, okay, once September comes, we're gonna start getting tuitions in, and that's gonna start to cover the operating budget for the year. But in fact, it doesn't. You really have to watch it very closely, because you could be dipping into those reserves by the end of the year, which is in fact what happened this year, because we used the 215,000 as a revenue source for the budget.
And so,
again, we're using it in 2017.
in a fancy sort of way, we're using that reserve fund to supplement the general fund. If you know what I'm saying, if you're following the way that that's working. Even though we're pulling out of the reserve fund, we still have to make that money up that we're sending forward. So, there's,
Okay.
obviously, there's report out questions that we need moving forward. We need to have some sort of reporting process that we get a clear understanding what's going on. And then the budget, because as we were learning in Finance Subcommittee that there was a budget that was put forward regarding payroll and so forth, and then the actual budget that was awarded was less than the known payroll costs. So it was already being set up as a loss.
Right.
So and this again is all off the radar. None of this stuff gets reported to the school committee, and you're looking at, hundreds of thousands of dollars that are running through this system.
How often do you guys get to meet?
We chat a lot. I mean, I go over to Pat a lot, but we don't officially like sit down and have a.
That'll change.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you know what's going on in your program, just like Tom knew what was going on in his program. We have to start communicating. And it's not a criticism against you guys. It may not have been culturally comfortable, but now it is. So go chat, meet, put your agendas online so we can all see what's going on. And then that way you guys, and we will ask you to come and report out at least twice a year so we can hear what the good things are that you're doing and hear from you what you need, what's working, and what's not.
I think that's a great idea. I think I would like to, I'm working very hard and making a lot of money. I would like to be more in control and be more visible too.
I think that's part of that. I mean, certainly that superintendent is responsible. You're responsible, by the way.
He's done. He's running away.
I know. No, he's not running
We're going
away.
after him.
We're pulling him back in.
With the vision program. Wheeling him
Yeah,
in.
but if your program is making this kind of money, imagine.
It's a great program too. It's a great asset. It's an opportunity for the district. It's an opportunity for the students, and it makes money. It's a win-win.
Does anybody have any questions for Laura? No. Thank you. Thank you
you,
very
Laura.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat.
Draft technology plan. You people have been so patient. So I'm going to tell an Alita story right now. We knew this was going to be a long meeting, and I apologize to all of you. I am going to tell the story. So when Alita saw, why not? When Alita saw the laundry list, literally, of activities, she sent me the draft, and it said at the top in big red letters, "Welcome to the first ever school committee sleepover. Bring your pajamas." And you were right. But anyway, hello. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you guys too.
Suchi and Cindy Larson.
How are ya?
So, Dr. Bates, I'll let you set them up.
Well, I think the technology department has formed a bond and has worked very hard to develop this draft plan. Hopefully that will guide your district forward. Again, it's a draft that needs to be a living document to help guide your district, the students, the staff, forward in technology, education, digital learning, professional development, and also give you a roadmap of what is needed. So
I don't know where you want me to start, just with the plan.
go ahead.
So I actually took the word draft off of it because I got tired of looking at it.
Tired of doing a draft.
Right. So I know you have the presentation, and I'm not going to go through every slide. Definitely not. But I just wanted to let the community know that our task when Dr. Bates came was to create a technology plan that was 2 years in length, knowing that new leadership was going to be coming in. And we wanted to, we were fortunate that this year was the first year that we really felt like we had a formal tech committee to do that. That included stakeholders of school committee, good representation from all the schools, and a parent. and we knew that we needed to make collective decision-making, and our goal was to make it much more transparent. So we also needed to describe in the plan the current status of their technology and digital learning at Neshoba so that the incoming new leadership would have a good background of where we are. And we needed to create measurable goals with attainable actions. And again, we were told to keep those, relatively simple. And then we needed to determine best practices. So we did a lot of site visits to other schools. We did surveys. We surveyed the parents, the teachers, and the students of the one-to-one Chromebook. We surveyed the entire district, all the staff on technology and their comfort level with it, and the support services, and what they felt, with were we giving them the right devices. And we also went to different conferences. And then again, as Dr. Bates said, we're going to use this to strategically build upon. So it's a beginning, and we're looking forward to it. And so the next slide is just a representation again of different people that are on the committee. It looks large, but I in fact would like more members. I would like to see more administrators on the committee next year. And I would like to also see more teachers on the committee so that we can have better representation. And then we have so many decisions to make as we move forward that I think that we need to have subcommittees and break that apart, because there's just a lot to be done, but we need good representation on that. So I don't want to go through the whole thing, but essentially it has 8 goals, and it touches 4 areas: technology infrastructure, hardware and software, technology support, and teaching and learning. And just let the community know it's online in the meeting packet, so you can review the whole plan there. Are there any questions at this time specifically about the technology plan?
Where?
Actually, I've got one. The Wide Area Network.
Goal one.
Under rationale, you say that Comcast should currently pay them $12,000 a month for the WAN service. Do you have anywhere listed what services and what's actually being paid for in that $12,000 per month?
It's a service, and also it's just the connection. The service connect all buildings.
No, I get that, okay, but we're paying $12,000 a month, and so that's for the use of the fiber, right?
Yes.
So
And also the equipment. We run the equipment, yes.
Right, and then it would also, and then the internet connection, right?
No, internet connection is
So
separate.
that's a separate
Yes.
fee? Okay, because I was just wondering, because you're saying for $300,000 for the initial upfront cost,
You're talking about a
Hardly.
different goal than Len, right?
well, under goal 1, Wide Area Network.
Oh, right, sorry.
So
Yes.
it's,
Yep.
right, so basically, if we were to do the 300,000, so my.
And that's an estimate.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if it's really a 2-year return on investment, because when you do the installation, now you're gonna have to do pole rentals. And then you have to buy the equipment, and then any expertise you're getting from Comcast, I mean, we're gonna have to hire somebody to fill that unless you are qualified to do the Wide Area Network stuff. So I'm just wondering, is it really a 2-year return on investment?
It may not be, and that's why I want to go through the competitive bidding process so that we can determine if it's at all feasible. And I think that Suchi, if you had touched base with a company to try to get a kind of a figure
Yes,
and
so
figure out how all of this works, is where we got the 300,000. I think it included some of the things you were talking about.
Well, I don't, well, what you're gonna have is with the poles.
What are we doing?
Well, I mean, there's an estimate here, it's saying they would like to put in their own Wide Area Network fiber, so they'll string small fiber around. And the initial estimate is $300,000. And we get that from Comcast. And so Comcast provides the fiber
the equipment.
But wait a second, let me ask a question. What do you want us to do with this plan? Do you want us to,
It's a guide. Every district is supposed to have a technology plan. And
Is
it's,
that
again,
some-
it's a living
It's
document.
recommended.
is that something that the school committee,
You don't approve,
Right.
you don't vote on it, but it's the guide and it comes out.
It's a recommendation from the
recommendation
state.
comes out-
It's no longer needed for.
Right, and it really should help guide you
reimbursement.
when you're doing your budget process too.
Because we're picking up, you know, we might, I'm not so sure that the 2-year return on investment is correct, because they're not comparing all of the services that we're gonna pick up.
are you on
expertise.
this committee?
Yes.
So I'm not sure, Lynn, if you're seeing that there's also E-rate that's involved, and right now E-rate 2.0 would, if everything is.
Cover 50%.
They would cover 50% of that 300,000.
But they're not gonna.
So then that means that the rate of return at that would actually be about a year and a
Would-
little bit more.
But what we're losing from Comcast.
Why
for
are
that
we
service.
down deep
Yeah.
in this
I know, it's
little
just-
rat
Yeah.
hole?
So
It's-
that's all, based on
it's
that
just that
number
if
that's
we're gonna do
there?
I
return
think
on
if
investment.
we go
I-
through the process that's in the goal next year and we
Yeah.
go out and do the competitive bidding, there's no obligation for us to move forward with it, but I think we need to do our due diligence and just investigate.
We are down a rat hole.
It's on-
Stop. We are down a rat hole. I get it, but that is something that you guys need to get together and talk about. You need to have that conversation because from where I sit, it feels like this piece of this, and I want to hear this, and you want to hear this, and
It's going to create a budget item that we don't currently have.
then you guys need to work together. You guys need to sit down and have that conversation, and if it's in the if Neil's disagreeing, what's going on?
I'm not going down the rat hole, but I disagree, and we've talked about this in some of the meetings, briefly.
Oh, you disagree with me?
No,
Or you
I disagree
with-
that it's not a budget, because if we're removing one budget item, that will then supplant it at that point.
So see this conversation?
Exactly, rat
You
hole.
guys are having this like thing that in order to educate us so we get it, it's gonna take more time. It doesn't mean that it's not a valid conversation. It is, but not for right now. Go figure it out together. All of you. And then let us know. Okay? Did that make sense? Hi. What else do you have for us?
Can I just say, reading this over before I got here, thank you, and you guys, thank you so much. Just, I feel like I'm finally getting a picture of what Neshoba has and what the vision is, and thank you.
Welcome.
That was well said.
Is there any other questions? I think we don't want to go down the rabbit hole.
Saturated right now. So what's your next
so-
steps?
So our next steps is to, I would like to, like I said, I wanted to take the word draft off of here and just start with the plan and then meet with the new superintendent Clenchy and
Has she
really
seen
kind of-
this yet?
I don't know, has she seen it?
So,
Not the
so,
finished product, no.
Right, so I'd really like to have that time and then push forward with the first things we need to do, so.
okay. So we'll get you on the agenda early in the next school year. I think your area is gonna become more visible and important, right? Exponentially with what we're doing.
Especially with the one-on-one initiatives.
That's my point.
But also I have to commend them too. The dialogue now at the high school is much more open, and it's been, Cindy and Suchi have been very proactive in that. It's really nice to see.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for getting everybody together and trusting them to do it. Neil?
If anybody wants to just compare it to exactly what Nicole's saying, still online, I believe, is the 2009 or 10 to 2014 tech plan.
I'd like to switch that.
But if anybody, publicly or whatever wants to check that out versus this, light years ahead where we are right now
Great.
on that plan. It's just amazing the work they've been
So
doing.
it's a better reflection of the district. and the work that goes on in our district. Thank you.
Right, and I appreciate the time that you're giving us to report it out.
Oh, you'll have more.
Typically, it hasn't
Again,
been,
you need to be before the school committee at least twice a year and keeping them updated, and not just the school committee, but the community.
right, the stakeholders are everything.
Exactly.
I appreciate that.
How's this year been? Pretty crazy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So no questions on anybody? Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Let's let them go.
Okay.
All right.
Easy.
All right.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, boy, you ladies are real troopers. Come and talk to us about professional development, and then Dr. Bates owes you
No.
a dinner.
This is-
No, not individual.
I'm just going to preface this. I know when I first came here, and I'm going to just say this as I do. What are you going to do? Fire me? No. When I first came here, it was thought of, can you please show us the value of teaching and learning?
Who said that?
We did.
Oh, we did, yes. I'm sorry. I know I did. I know I had a very different feel about teaching and learning, but yes.
And in just 6 months to see the evolution of you know, Robin and Patty and Cindy and everyone else in teaching and learning, and to really watch them integrate out into the community, again, getting them out of this building and out where they should be is the important piece. And to really to develop now a quality professional development program. It's in its infancy, but it's going to take off. And I think you know, you're modeling it after they've gone out and looked at other communities. And I really believe within the next couple of years, you're going to have one of the top professional development opportunities out there for your staff. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That was good. Thank you.
I'll
You
start
like
and then
top. What do you have?
Oh,
Re-energize us, please.
Well, we're referencing this document that may be in your packet or that you have online. And it's what we did basically is we surveyed the staff to better understand what people are looking for. And overwhelmingly, people are looking for choice. And there are state mandates around recertification, such as so many professional development points in terms of ESL content, in terms of special education content. So because there are requirements from the state, people know they need to do these types of professional development, but they are looking for choice. And it's treating them like professionals to let them identify what kinds of professional development they need. So on this piece of paper, when we surveyed staff, we had top picks, and our top pick was around student engagement. It was around social emotional learning. So what we're doing is looking for the in-house staff to come forward and make proposals and create the kinds of professional development that they're seeking. So we're putting out an RFP to have people respond and outline what that professional development will look like.
You mean an internal Oh,
Yes.
that's kind of cool. You're treating them like professionals. What an idea.
There's
We've done that. We've done that every year.
Yeah, but this looks really professional.
Thank you.
Okay, keep going, because I'm loving what you're saying.
So I think initially we did get a lot of feedback saying people are interested in facilitating, and we made it clear that we don't have a lot of money to pay people, and the agreement is that if you facilitate, you get double professional development points. So people are coming forward, so it's really exciting to see.
That's great.
Do you want to add to it?
No, I mean, I think it's self-explanatory what we're doing on all those days. The only people that do not have that choice are the K through 5, because they will be focusing all year on the new math program. And I think that all of them would, if they had a choice, they would choose that. So we wanted to keep that straight. And we wanted to keep it October through May, the choice, because that gives them 10 PDPs, which they can bundle and put together, because that's 10 hours of time. And the principals felt strongly that in September, for the first early release, they wanted to, each grade level span had something different they wanted to focus on. I know that Perry at the high school really wanted everybody to have 2 hours of digital learning. So that'll be exciting. We'll do an ed camp that Mary Murata had put on for a 45-minute, but this will be a 2-hour. In the middle school, they wanted to go back to looking at student work and data like they used to do on the first early release in September. And of course, K through 5 will be doing the math. So, and then I just wanted to say that Summer Academy is going along swimmingly. It's wonderful. We had a gentleman that is a certified Google Apps trainer. He works at a one-to-one school. Craig came, Craig Shield from Bedford. He was here for 2 days, and he was fantastic. And we had high school and middle school teachers in there, and they just got so much out of it. Patty and I were
It was
were
fabulous.
There. It was
Really?
absolutely
Really
fabulous.
fabulous.
Yep. Rave reviews on Katie Giannetti. She put together a wonderful course for differentiation for learning for special ed, so our teachers can get 15 PDPs that they require for relicensure. And it was packed, and they kept coming out of the room and saying, you know, oh my gosh, this is awesome, it's awesome. So there's a lot of, we did Pasco science probes, that was fantastic. And Robin, we had Pasco come in and deliver that. But it's still going on, and it doesn't end until end of August. So. And all of that's posted online. Patty and I started building a professional development website. If you go to Teaching and Learning and select Professional Development, all of these things are out there for everyone to see.
How refreshing. It's positive, and it's about learning. Thank you so much. Kathy.
Just a couple of things. We're going to have to figure out where to put ASOP the first couple of days of school.
Oh, you're
Just
going to have to
saying.
work that in.
I've already talked to Cindy.
Okay.
Another one of her
I'm not, yeah, it's probably gonna have to be in those first 2 days.
It's not if you go, have you been to their website?
I did, I went out when Dr. Bates came to me, I went out that night and did some YouTube videos and looked at it.
If you go on the website, they have the training for
Right.
subs. It's just an overview, but most people say it doesn't take that long
Yeah.
to learn to do it.
I
But-
just have more questions about how it integrates with our system, you said with Power School.
Power School, yeah, because we had Power School and it just integrates.
Right.
So as soon as we send them a check, I think the doors will open and there'll be people you can talk to. So anyway.
No, that's okay, as long as I get training first, I'll be fine.
The other question I have is about how the choices sort of play out across middle and high school. In the staff survey that was done a couple of years ago, one of the concerns that middle and high school people seem to have was that it was like a one-size-fits-all approach to everything. And then there were some people that requested, and I think this also came up during the communication forum, that there was a lot of, and I think it's great to have in-house folks, but also a desire to have some experts from the outside come in.
Yes.
So how did this, what does this look like throughout the year in the middle school and then at the high school?
So for the early release days,
Yes.
Kathy? So in addition to some of the people that want to come forward and share their expertise, Patty and I will be looking this summer for online courses designed for teachers on these subjects that are free. And so if there is a group that wants to do something self-directive and do it online, they can do that. And others, we looked at other districts that are starting to do that because they want the teachers to be self-directed. We want our students to be self-directed, and it's more personalized. The other thing is that rather than paying, as Patty said, the facilitators, we will use some of that money for outside experts to come in in some of these areas.
So what are the hot topics, middle and high school, of the top,
So
the top
I
choices?
wanted to.
I actually, I
Did you
have
print
some.
that?
I
Mm.
did.
Thank you.
Some of the top, like, for example, the English department at the high school is interested in working with the middle school ELA department. So they're interested in vertical teaming and aligning content, which is fabulous. The math people were interested in doing the same thing. We also had interest in designing project-based learning. The alternative education people at the high school wanted to get together and work. Musical, on the team chairs, there was a request to do an in-depth book study and looking at theory and applying the application of it. Then there's brain-based learning, social skills deficits in the classroom, and then the science teachers at the high school are interested in biotechnology and doing more around interdisciplinary curriculum. So some of the suggestions that came forward are really wonderful, and I think will really benefit the kids.
Good, thank you. No, it sounds wonderful.
Any other questions? Ladies, thank you so much.
Just before they go, I do want to recognize Robin, who will be leaving us. She has been appointed. Would you want to tell them?
I start Friday as the new associate principal at the Bromfield School in Harvard.
Wow.
Our
Congratulations.
loss.
Associate principal.
Yes. And she's done a great job as the interim, and she's grown tremendously, and wish you the very best.
And she was an amazing science teacher. That's when I knew you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Good luck. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was a feel-good way to end the presentations. Thank you. Okay, subcommittee report outs. Mr. Dawsey.
Yes, so we met yesterday at Finance Subcommittee, and we talked about, we're doing a postmortem that is going, we just revisited, we talked about it, we got commentary from the school committee on this. It's a postmortem. We're going out to, essentially going out to member towns with their co-representatives of the towns, and then just reviewing the budget, seeing if there's any questions, any process that we can do better, that we need to keep our, costs straight on whatnot. And there are some dates that are being established over the summer.
Do you have any right now?
I do not have one established for Bolton. I don't know if Mark has the date yet.
When is yours?
Stowe, we've not made a specific commitment, but the Finance Committee in Stowe has an opportunity in the second and fourth Tuesday for a visit.
So Lynn and Nicole, schedules are gonna be crazy with summer, but the three of you, right, would be encouraged, school committee members to all go.
And also, I think Jen Leone has, she's also potentially reached out and talking about sometime in the mid-July too. And she's gonna be reaching out to Kathy and Susan.
Right. So my point, Lynn, was just that I think it's important that the school committee have a. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah, you said we wanted to be invited and to be that.
Yeah, I think, rather than just, then I respect our finance committee, but I think, and then if each of the three, and Neil, you could make sure that all of those
Each
dates.
of the two for Bolton.
Well, no, I mean all three towns, because I'd like to know when they are. If you're
Sure.
are you gonna coordinate that, or is everyone doing their own?
It was everyone was kind of doing their own type of thing, but I guess we can just request that we just report out on dates.
Yeah, once you guys have them, just send them around, so, because I think I'd like to sit in the back room for all of them.
I think Jennifer said that Lancaster is likely to be meeting on July 18th.
Is it the 18th?
And that was her not quite committed understanding of when they would meet.
Yeah, she was looking for, yesterday she was still looking for confirmation on that, with Lancaster FinCom as far as, well, that's how the conversation went, and then she's gonna again reach out to.
So she will get in touch with us, but
Yeah.
you're thinking the 18th of July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Because this is a school committee effort, right? Great. Neil, thank you. And
Hang on, more. So we did talk about, student activities accounts, we talked about the revolving funds, we've got, ton of questions about all those. We did talk about some food service questions, some extended day, which some of that information was shared here today. And then we had our guest presenter, which was actually the chair, Lorraine, that came in and talked to us and shared a conversation that she had. And I don't know if you want to.
Sure. We have a new superintendent coming on board. We've made quite a significant investment in her. And I think Neil said it best yesterday when he said and I think Lynn might have said it at one point, we want to make sure that we give Superintendent Clenchey every opportunity to be successful. We have had questions trying to dig through some of the budget work that you and the Finance Committee have been doing some heavy lifting. And as a result of that, you guys recommended the MASBO effort. We did it. We got a lot of good information out of it, but there's still additional information. And we keep having more questions. So as a result of that, and really, truly to ensure that we can start the school year clean, everybody knows what we're doing, Superintendent Clenchey has visibility in everything she needs. I had a conversation with an organization, and I actually talked with Dr. Bates about this and a couple of other folks. It is an audit firm. It's called Melanson Heath. Melanson, I do that all the time. Melanson Heath. And I spoke with the gentleman who runs their forensic department to ask him, what do they do when they do a forensic audit? What's the extent of it? How much time? How much money? What's the value of it? And it was actually kind of an impressive discussion. And you can go out, and I'll send the information out. He asked me if I wanted a proposal of services, but I said no because I wanted to come and talk to you guys first. One of the things I didn't know was, 30B limits the amount of money that we can spend without going through a formal bidding process. However, what I didn't know is that attorneys and auditors are exempt from that. So we don't have to go to a formal bidding process, and I feel comfortable with this organization. They have done some very high visibility audits, and if you go on their website, you'll see that. I would like for you to allow me to engage him in providing a proposal for services. I did ask him generally, how does it work? What do we do? And he said, well, I'd want some direction from you folks as to what you're interested in. And I told him we had lots of questions about revolving accounts. There were a couple of areas in the MASBO report that we didn't get to that we still have a lot of questions on. And he said, have you ever talked with MASBO? And I said, yes. And he said, well, that's good because we start there. And actually, the fee would be about $40,000. But because we'd already done MASBO report and engaged them, which was what did we end up with? $6,000. It actually results in a $15,000 savings from this audit, which is crazy, right? So that's a good way to spend money. So he said, generally, he couldn't see it being any higher than the $25,000. Now, I don't have a formal proposal. I can get that from him. So I would like for you to consider that, and that's what I went to finance on.
So based on the year-end, all the information that came to us at year-end, all the questions that we have
Yep.
on all that information, you know, and personally for me, after hearing all the stuff I didn't even know tonight about like facilities and stuff that's been
Right.
going on, we did make a motion in Finance Subcommittee to allow the school committee chair to seek a proposal of services for forensic audit. And that was passed, and so we would recommend that the school committee also adopt the same one. And so, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to the school committee to allow the school committee chair to seek a proposal of services for a forensic audit.
Second.
Does anybody have questions about this?
It's just a proposal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a proposal and I think we need answers, so. But we'll certainly get the information. Kathy Lynn, Kathy
Are we
Lynn.
gonna get it by the 7th?
When I talked with him, I told him I needed to bring this forward to you folks, and that if you said yes, that we probably needed to move rather quickly, and he said he could. He also told me that he could have the work completed by the start of the new school year.
Wow.
So a forensic audit is going to give us all of the answers that we need?
No. I mean, yes, if you want to do it over a 2-year time frame.
So so Masbo gave us some answers and more questions.
And we had more
couldn't get
questions.
answers. So we're gonna do it again, but this is a forensic audit to answer the question.
Maswell didn't dig deep down into, Maswell is more of policy and procedures.
Okay.
This Melanson and Heath dig down deeper into your accounts.
And so we can get answers now?
But I think we need to be specific about what we're,
You have to give
what
them guidance.
areas.
Right.
So I would suggest that the revolving accounts that have been generating so much angst, because the bottom line is, guys, especially the finance subcommittee has been spending an inordinate amount of time trying to understand things, and we aren't the experts, right? We shouldn't be doing that work. And this year is the year to pull back out of it a little bit and have the experts give us the information. And that's why I think this makes sense at this point.
We'll have that conversation about what we want them to look at once we get a proposal.
So I think what I need to know is, what areas do you want answers on beyond the whole Masbo report, because we can't do that. And I even asked Dr. Bates, because he's been so close to this, where you thought we should focus, and your thoughts were?
I said the facilities, food service, definitely your extended learning program, and special education.
What about the revolving accounts?
And revolving accounts.
All of them?
Including student activities?
Yes.
Yeah, especially student
And especially
activities.
student activities.
I have another. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know you're getting a proposal, but we need to, this wasn't budgeted for, we need to decide where the money's gonna come from to pay for this when we put the proposal on the
Yes,
table.
we do. That's exactly right. Yep. We are gonna have to figure that out. Lynn, did you have a question?
Can we use, I'm under the understanding that under tech we're going to use 300,000 that's already in the budget to do the white area network, so that might be out there still, because they're not gonna do it for another 2 years.
Oh, was that earmarked in the budget?
No.
According to Sue Chi, we talked
No?
about it.
No, it's not in the budget.
Okay.
That's just a plan. It's not in the budget.
Right.
Well, you said it was in there.
Oh, all right.
He's
Susan,
wishing.
Alright.
Nicole,
No, a proposal, that's great.
okay. All right, any other questions? Mark?
If we think of other particular areas, should we pass them along to
To
the
me.
superintendent or to you, to
To
the
me.
chair?
Just
Okay.
send me an email.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
And you have what, Dr. Bates? I just want to make sure SPED's on there.
SPED is on there.
Mention special education.
Yeah. Facilities, sped, and revolving accounts.
Yeah.
And I think that you know it seems just so huge with all the stuff we've done through the Masbo report, but it all keeps coming back to sped facilities and the extent in the revolving accounts. So we can't solve for this problem, and we cannot ask the administration to do their day job and then do this deep dive. So I think we got to get the experts in to do it, and I understand there's an additional expense, but I think at this point we've done all the things that we could to get the answers.
I mean, we really do need the pros. I mean,
pardon?
We do need the pros. Not only is the mojo sustainable, you know, for years out on this end, you know, meeting the number of times that we met, et cetera. But I mean, I think we've done good work.
Yeah, you have.
Mark has led some great work this past year, but
I know.
there's still some questions.
Right. And it's a diminishing return now.
And the other piece that one of the things I said to Ryan is that when I teach my course, and with new administrators coming in, I always tell them, do not go in and touch any books until you know it's clear. I'm not saying there's any wrongdoing, but you're going in new. And even if you're going in as a principal with your school accounts, if your district or business manager superintendent says, no, we're not going to pay for it, then you want to have signed off by the business manager and or the superintendent that those books are clear when you come in as a new administrator. And I think this will only benefit Brooke coming in, that she's starting off fresh.
Well, it'll give us answers
And
too,
you.
right? So.
Did they describe the look-back period that is in the range of interest for a typical visit like this?
I don't know, but I can get that question answered if you'd like.
And I found out the other day that, which has nothing to do with this, but records are required for 7 years to be kept, all financial records for the district, so they could go back that far.
Okay. All right, so discussion all set? We need a vote. All those in favor? Wait,
What motion?
did I get a motion?
I think we did a
I think you did
motion.
it.
I think we did. I thought we did.
Yeah.
Did I do a motion to accept it?
We did do a motion.
I
I
thought
did,
you
I did do a motion.
You didn't, she said.
Oh, so Neil motioned.
Right.
I motioned to allow the school committee chair to
You told me that the finance subcommittee.
and then I went right into the motion, so I'm
And then we
sorry.
got our second.
So I made a motion to allow the
Yeah.
school committee chair to seek a proposal of services for a forensic audit.
Did anybody second it?
Kathy did.
Sorry about that.
All right, let's do that. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you all. And
Thank you.
I'll get this done for you. Okay. Kathy.
Yeah, I think, you know, we talked about ASOP, we brought that forward. We worked on the recommendation on capping the sick days in the non-union contracts, and we vetted the business manager and operations manager job description, and I think we're done for the year. I'm done.
Okay.
The school year.
So, thank you for that. And Ms. Reardon.
We looked at 5 different policies.
You guys are still going.
There's some we didn't get to. Yeah.
It's a new year.
Yeah. A few of them were old business, so it was nice to kind of put the new school committee member orientation one. I think that's all. We decided that was all set for first reading for school committee. And then the development of regulations in the annual budgets. The annual budgets one, we're waiting. We're sort of trying to think of how to include the timeline in that somehow. And then the development of regulations, we were thinking about Neil's going to bring the boilerplate regulations for the next time, right? You were gonna-
Oh, yeah, the mask. Yeah, we have a copy of that. Yep.
And then, we looked at the bylaws, sorry. So that was the first one we did. The school committee bylaws, so specifically that Article 5 or 15, Section 1. But then we also talked about quite a few other things that, and we're at the point now where we're gonna look at it a second time next time, so I'm not quite ready to.
Updated bylaws.
Updated bylaws,
Are
yes.
you gonna need time on the 7th to do final approvals or?
Maybe for just the BIA, the new school.
Never, it's like the mail, it never ends.
Yeah, there's always something
So-
next, you know.
Because if you don't need it, I mean, you guys gotta let me know if you need it, because
Oh, do we need time on the agenda to
Yeah.
approve a few?
It was just that one, I think, that we
Yeah, but
decided
it
was
might as
ready.
well. It should be a quick in and out. So.
what is it?
It's the BIA, the new school committee member orientation.
Okay.
And then the acceptable use of the internet, we were gonna kind of look at whether, like at the state guidelines to see if that should be part of it.
Alita reminds me that on the 25th, the prior policy committee did push through quite a few to the school committee.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 7 of them.
It's all
So,
I just want to make sure you're covered, that's all.
okay, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
no, it wasn't a pressure point, it was just,
Okay.
are you covered? Do you need the time? So.
well, if you want to put 7 policies on
No,
your
no,
agenda.
no,
then-
but if you need it, but if there's a critical piece,
Well, they won't be
then we
ready
take
for
it.
next Thursday.
Well, the ones that Neil and I put through
Oh,
on the
gotcha.
25th,
Oh, I see.
yes,
Yeah.
are ready to go.
So I have a
Okay,
question
sorry.
on one policy,
Yeah.
if appropriate at this moment. On the budget timeline, I have an impression that that is tentative and we're kind of waiting for commitment on the part of the administration and maybe premature to set that in a policy.
So that's why we sort of table it.
It's actually not the timeline itself, too. It's, to be clear,
Just the concepts.
it's all the concepts of the reports, and we want to put something in there that says the school committee will request and the administration will provide, a various set of
Got it.
reports
So
out and so
superstructure
forth.
for-
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we ran out of time on how to word that properly,
Exactly.
to put that in.
Okay,
And the class size one we just briefly touched upon.
all right,
So that,
so I got your BIA. You want BIA?
yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then anything else from, yes or no?
I don't know. Do we?
Anything else
Cool.
from that 25th?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jones,
I
where
have-
are you on your RFP?
I have no news to report on the audit advisory committee, and I need to talk to the chair and summon a meeting to cause a RFP process to get started.
When are you gonna be able to do that?
Well, I think starting the conversation in July with the chair and seeing if we can meet at some point during the summer, I think is a first step.
So, what I'd really like, because we're kind of behind a little bit, is could you plan to have some concrete information for us by the second meeting of the school committee, so that we have, you're gonna put something in front of us.
In September, you mean, or
Yep.
August, whatever,
Yep,
when we resume?
yep.
Sure.
Yep, I think that should, given schedules with vacation and everything, but we need to get that one checked off.
And do you have full representation now?
Lancaster still has a vacancy. It's my belief that Stowe has reappointed their person, and I don't know what, well, actually, no, Stowe has not, because it has to be a joint finance committee and selectmen meeting. So, there's a time, right now, we're in the period of renewing people's terms for that committee, for all 3 towns.
All right. Thank you. Superintendent's report. Report high.
No, I'm happy to I'm pleased to announce. We've finished up our interviewing this week, from last week and this week. Last week we interviewed, we had 27 applications for the Director of Pupil Personnel Services. The committee interviewed 8 highly qualified candidates. I'm really pleased with the committee. We had team chair people, we had 2 parents from the SPED PAC, early childhood coordinator, high school SPED teacher, 2 principals, ELA coordinator, and they were unanimous in their decision in choosing a top candidate. They did not even submit a second or a third candidate. So a top candidate. I contacted her. I spent 2 hours with her yesterday. She has given a verbal commitment to come to this district. I think you're going to find she's a bright, articulate, dedicated individual. Her references were impeccable. She's a dynamo. She's a worker, and so Superintendent Clenchey will be presenting her for your approval. This is one of the positions you have to approve on July 7th. So I said to her, I'm disappointed. I would love to have worked with her. She's
you didn't have to leave.
Oh yes, I did.
He's clear about that one.
I think so.
Then we had 16 applications for the Director of Facilities. And again, had 10 people from the district volunteered to participate on that committee. And they have submitted 2 names to me as finalists that Superintendent Clenchey and I will interview hopefully on next Tuesday. And I'm optimistic about that position. And then today, after 2 days of rounds of interviews for the Human Resource Manager's position, again, we had 6 people participate in those interviews, and they have recommended a definite top candidate. They did give me names of 2, but they all were unanimous on the first choice. So I'll be calling that person first thing tomorrow morning, and hopefully getting them signed, sealed, and delivered.
How did you get this all done? So can I just for a moment, everybody just throw things in the ring, because we've got 4 senior level positions,
Yep.
pulling our teaching and learning organization through the entire district, helping us understand more of what's going on in the budget and enabling that. Technology
The man
plan.
did get an exemplary on his evaluation.
Oh, that's true.
That's true.
Okay, just saying.
No, it really has been a pleasure. You know, many people have said it has. Neil's laughing over there.
I love nightmares.
No, you know, I think there's a misconception out there about interims, and I think they think people are just going to come in and keep the seat warm. And maybe there are people out there like that, but that's not who I am. And it's been a pleasure. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, does anyone have any correspondence? If not, I'm moving right into consent agenda. Nicole.
About correspondence, can I just ask, is there a protocol for when a letter is sent to all of us that it is responded to, that even just, yes, we got your letter?
Sure. If it's sent to all of us, then I'll take it on.
Okay.
However, just want everybody to know that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to respond to the actual content of it, especially if it's about.
I think
yeah.
just the, did you get my letter?
But for others, the content, especially if it's about an employee. So yes, I will do that. I'll do that going forward. Okay. Thanks, Nicole. Everything good on the meeting minutes for May 30th, 1st, June 15th, and the warrants for July 1st? Right here. Items for next agenda. Okay. Does anybody have anything?
One last thing.
Sir?
I just want to thank Alita for everything.
Oh, Alita. She's wonderful.
She is.
She's well, we're taking care of her anyway.
I couldn't have gotten through it without her, so thank you.
She's awesome. All right, and with that, I think we're going to, I need a motion to move into.
I move we adjourn. Oh, we
No,
have to
you
do an
can't.
executive session?
Yes.
Didn't see that one coming.
So we're going to go into executive session. So Kathy, if you, how do we do this? You're going to have, somebody needs Mark to make the motion. And
That means
we're
you get booted.
not to return. We've got 2.
It's hard to get up after sitting so
You
long.
kind of melt to the seat.
All right.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still in session.
I move we move into executive session for the purpose of reviewing executive session minutes of December 12th, December 16th, 2 sets, February 11th, 2016, February 25th, 2016, May 11th, 2016, May 18th, May 31, 2 sets, June 15th, 2016. And I'm do that for the purpose of number 7 of the Mass General Laws of Chapter 30A, which is, what is the detail on that? That's Section 7.
It's for
For the purpose of reviewing our minutes,
It's for
basically.
the purpose of holding an executive session. It's item number 7. Are you
And
good?
this is a separate thing. That's
Right,
not
yeah.
good.
I know what you said.
Yeah.
So that's it. So I'm looking for a second on that.
Yeah. Second?
Second.
All right, Nicole,
Aye.
Susan,
Oh, and to not reconvene in
I thought you said
open
that.
meeting and to
No, you
adjourn.
have to go back.
we have to go back.
You have to, they're reviewing them, but they have to approve them in open session, don't they?
You have to vote to approve them in open session.
We do.
So we approve them in the executive session, and then we vote to.
You're reviewing them in the executive
And
session.
then
And
we're
you vote to
approving them in
approve them in
open.
public.
And to return to open session in order to approve the same listed minutes after the executive session.
Go into executive session, because that way if you want to discuss edits, it's not.
Yeah.
All righty. Okay, so in light of that, is there a second?
Second.
Kathy, Nicole,
Aye.
Susan, Lorraine, yes, Mark,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yep.
Neil.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.